Good evening. I call to order the June 27th, 2024 regular Homeless Commission meeting at 5:30 p.m. We're starting a little bit late at 5:35. Let's see here. Denise, could you please take roll?
Chair Benjamin Strickland.
Here.
Vice Chair Leslie Mugen.
Here.
Commissioner Linda Cunningham.
Here.
Quorum?
You do have quorum.
Very well. For review of the agenda, if there's any items that arose after the 72-hour posting deadline, this is the point in the meeting where a vote may be taken to add that item to the agenda. A 2/3 majority vote is required. Are there any items that wish to be added to the agenda?
Nothing from the public, and Chair Strickland, I received nothing online.
Very well. Moving on to public comment for commissioners. Members of the public wishing to address the commission on matters within the jurisdiction of the city of Seaside, but not on this agenda, may do so during public comment period for up to 3 minutes. Comments on specific agenda items are heard under that item. For public record, please state your name.
Chair Strickland, there's no one in chambers and there's no one online wishing to make public comment at this time.
Very well. Approval of minutes from the April 25th, 2024 regular meeting. Recommendation to approve minutes as presented in the agenda packet. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes. I move to accept the minutes from the April 25, 2024 regular meeting.
Very well. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are accepted. And we're going down to business items. 6A, receive information from representatives of Seaside first responder groups, Seaside police and fire departments regarding engagement with individuals and families experiencing housing challenges. Recommendation is commissioners will receive feedback and inquire from representatives from Seaside's police and fire departments about their experiences engaging with individuals and families in Seaside who are unhoused or living in cars to gain insight into the need for resources to support positive and effective interactions to help those community members they encounter. Okay.
And so there's no orders to which one of you would like to come and speak on your experiences. Flip coin. Looks like we'll have DC Jason Sullins from the Seaside Fire Department speaking on his the fire department's experiences with our housing challenge community members.
Yes, good evening, commissioners. So I don't really have anything prepared other than I looked up some statistics that the fire department keeps as far as dealing with our unhoused population and our call volume. So currently this year, we've run approximately 1,500 calls for service. And in those 1,500 calls for service, a little less than 10% is recorded as unhoused. The number is probably a little higher than that because sometimes we don't make patient or contact interactions with the individuals. And sometimes officers are unsure whether or not they should put whether the person or the family is unhoused. So, but roughly it's about 10% of our call volume. We have seen the movement of the unhoused from different areas, one location being the rec trail just north of the city. That encampment is no longer full, but it comes and goes. And so we would typically run calls for service out there as well as Laguna Grande Park. So our typical centers for where the unhoused would congregate has has moved around, but we don't have the larger populaces of them as we used to, at least at the current moment. So I'm able to answer any questions that you might have from me as far as things that you might have.
I did have a question about blankets. So I know that during the holiday season, it can get pretty cold during winter time. Does the fire department have blankets that they may give out to the unhoused?
So typically what happens is a call for service comes in, and a lot of times it comes in as a unknown person down. In other words, we don't know if they have a medical issue, if they're sleeping, things like that. Typically, that response will include AMR, which is our ambulance provider for the county. And what we'll typically do is if there's some need and the ambulance gets on scene, a lot of times we will leave a blanket with them. The city, we do not currently have, at least at the fire department, we don't have a surplus of blankets that we go and hand out. For a while there, we were bringing socks and sweatshirts and things like that, that we would keep in buckets in the engines. And if we came across someone that needed it, then we would hand that out, but we don't currently have a surplus.
Just to add to that real quick, as the Family Community Support Program that we operate has a partnership with the fire department. If it's brought to our awareness and we're called out, we do have warm support type items, whether it's blankets, socks, sweatshirts, cover clothing. We even have during the rainy season the oil, I guess, tent, type things that you can turn into makeshift tents and everything. So I think as part of the balance between what our program does as in partnership with fire, that is something that we try to collaborate on.
So they're not coming in from the person who's down. So where does it?
Typically not. Sometimes the homeless population will have a cell phone, maybe not a working cell phone, but I believe all cell phones, even if they don't have service, can reach 911. Most of the time the calls come in from a passerby that will see a person, not want to make contact with that person, but will call 911. And give an update of whatever they're seeing, whether that person's not moving, looks injured, looks sick, things like that. We'll respond out typically ourselves as well as the police department, and we'll assess the situation. And sometimes the police department will get there first. They'll let us know that they've made contact with the individual or persons, and there's no, medical need, or sometimes there will be. So. A lot of times, and Officer Moore can give his side of things, but typically, we work in conjunction with each other. And if the police department's in the area, they know that we're responding to the area. And if if they have availability, then they'll also respond.
So is that what? I'm assuming that's a reasonable response. If I'm passing by somebody and they're on the ground and I don't know what's happening, I would call it. Regardless of whether I know they were homeless or not.
Sure. If I guess the best way to answer that would be if the person is unsure of whether they feel comfortable making contact with the person, to find out if the person is maybe sleeping or if the person is having a medical issue, then call 911. If the person feels comfortable making contact and maybe the person is only sleeping and they're going to let them know, then they don't need to call 911 and generate a call for service, which would get an ambulance, a fire truck, things like that rolling.
Yes, and unfortunately, I cannot find the article I was hoping to look for. So I had read a story about Greeley, Colorado, and I believe Portland has pioneered, instead of sending an ambulance, a fire truck, and all these people for maybe, many different things, whether they're unhoused or maybe they're housed and they just need somebody to get their prescription, or they're hungry or they need food and what Greeley, Colorado, which is a little bit bigger than our city, they decided to create a different team that would maybe come with a different approach with a more like Derek's team. And so I just wondered, is that something that our commission should pursue with the city, that maybe there's a different way to address these that aren't quite so expensive, but doesn't put anybody's health at risk?
Yeah, again, it's one of those issues where if the person calling 911 doesn't make contact with the person, so at that point, we don't know what the issue is. And they say this person is not moving, it doesn't look like they're moving, maybe it doesn't look like they're breathing, then they're going, obviously,
Right,
we'd want to
right.
send all the responders as necessary. It's because sometimes that person hasn't made contact with them and maybe that person is only sleeping. Maybe they would want medications, maybe they would like some food, things like that. We don't know that. We're responding to a potential medical issue.
Right.
So without that knowledge, we're going to send resources until we know that we don't need those resources.
And when would your team, and I'm not sure how this works, but when would your people reach out to Derek's people to say, this person really needs some other, they're not having a medical emergency, but they need
Yeah,
help in
absolutely.
their life?
Absolutely.
It
It's on a case by case basis. And I think that not too long ago, we worked together at Laguna Grande Park where we came across an individual who was recently become unhoused, was not in the best of health and probably needed to be seen, but didn't necessarily want to be. And we got Derek involved and tried to kind of pursue that avenue. Sometimes people would like our help and would like more help than just the initial offering of, whatever their current immediate need is.
Mhm.
And that's when we've reached out. It's on a case by case basis. So it's kind of hard to,
And you feel that's working well?
I mean, obviously, I wish that there was, more services
That we could offer?
that, were offered, but I know that there's constraints and there's,
What would be the most important? Of all the things, and I'd love to have
Yeah.
your list, even off the top of your head, but.
yeah,
if
I
there
mean,
was one thing that
obviously,
stood
the
out-
most important is going to be, a safe shelter at certain times of the year. We see,
Like emergency shelter during storms?
or during cold. Our call
Yeah.
volume for the homeless goes up during cold periods, rainy periods, things like that, because obviously people don't want to be out in the rain. When the weather warms up, our calls for service typically drop, just because of the environmental impacts.
So if you were to, in 5 years, envision what this would be, would it be a facility that people would go to? Is it more vouchers to go to a hotel? What is it? Because I don't know what
Yeah,
it
it's,
is.
I would say it's probably a facility because I've seen the vouchers and whether they work or not. Sometimes I believe people are sent, and again, Officer Morgan, I can answer more of that because sometimes they have vouchers and the motels aren't accepting vouchers. So a facility that actually would take in both male, female, would probably be helpful.
I'm writing a note.
Yeah.
Let me go, and I did write down some other questions. Let's see. I had, my question was, what are the top 3 things that are needed?
Oof, top 3 things.
And you don't have to answer right
No,
now.
yeah.
I think these solves, I think that question probably easier for me to answer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
I'll-
just due to the.
I can
the
defer
level-
The
to
nature-
Officer Moore.
Nature and level of.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
can wait. And
If-
then, is there something that your officers need? Some kind of training, some kind of support, some kind of, I don't even know what it is, but is there something you need that we can ask the city to help your people get? It can't be expensive. I wish it was a.
Right, no.
option for
I don't think
something,
I don't think there's anything monetary that we necessarily need. I think we do a good a good job at serving our unhoused,
but- Uh-huh.
giving respect and, treating all of our customers, whether, they're in a house or not, the same. So I
Okay.
think we do a good job.
I believe you do a good job. I'm just asking, is there something that you think is missing that we can help the city get for, or whatever, even if it's training or I don't know what it would be, but if there's something, I hope you feel, if you think of something in the future
Mhm.
that you feel you can come to our committee,
Mhm.
commission, whatever we are, and let us know so we can promote that to the city.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
and let's see, and it sounded like you felt there's less homeless now than there.
What
has
I'm
been
saying
before.
is we don't have the congested pockets.
The
And
big
Officer Moore can
areas.
probably speak more because he's more mobile than we are.
Right,
But in the normal places that I would normally see,
right.
we don't have, the conglomeration of them.
And do you think in a year, 3 years, 5 years, our homeless unhoused problem will be worse, same or
I
better?
don't think I could answer that.
Okay, I don't think I can
Yeah.
either, but I wanted to ask that. And then, I don't know if you know anything about the safe parking at the adult school. And I wondered if you guys have been called out there, or there been any issues there?
I don't know anything
Okay,
about
I'll
it.
save that for the police officer.
Sounds good.
Those were my questions. I'm really bummed I can't, I meant to copy that Greeley article, but I've had some distractions this week. So anyhow, I will, thank you. I appreciate your
Absolutely.
information.
So one of the things I was wondering about, we've had some listening sessions, commissions held listening sessions in the fall, and I think we had folks from all over the county and folks here locally who are unhoused or at risk of being housed. One of the things that we heard was they would love to have open conversations with first responders, or with your teams. And I don't know if you guys would be willing to come to a listening session at some time in the future. I'm not suggesting it's today or to next week, but just being open to it would be amazing.
Sure. You're welcome. Anything else for me? All right, thank you.
Thank you guys for all that you do every day.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Good evening. I don't have anything prepared, but I will gladly answer questions related to it. As the DC said, I think for us dealing with the unhoused and kind of transient population, I say transient because we do have some that move through the city. They don't stay, right? They're moving from one place to another. They may be here one night, 2 nights, whatever, and then they move on. That's probably a quarter to a third of our calls for service. Both actual calls for service or something that the officers come upon. We do have a lot that set up camps or take some residency on private businesses. So those business owners are obviously calling because it's affecting their business. We do have quite a few that have come to the police department and said, hey, we don't want people camping on our property at night. Can you please, as you drive by, watch, if you see anybody here, please ask them to move along. So some of those calls are initiated by the officer because they know this business particularly doesn't want people staying on their property at night. So I'd say out of all of our calls for service, probably 25% to a third. What those numbers are, I don't have right now, but we could get those numbers at a later point. Yes. So it depends on how the call comes in. So if it comes in as like a medical type thing, so typically like early morning hours, if somebody's sleeping on the sidewalk, we'll get a call, passerby drives by, they see somebody that's laying on the sidewalk, they think they need to be checked on. That's usually all the information we get. Maybe a description. They'll obviously give a business they're in front of or bus stop or something like that. Don't stop to talk. Don't do anything. I don't know if it's usually, I don't know if they're breathing. I don't know what the issue is. Somebody needs to check on them. So that turns into, our dispatch center classifies that as an unknown type medical. And so that gets the fire department, the ambulance and the police officers, everybody responding to that. I would say a majority of those calls are somebody that's just where they chose to lay down and sleep for a while, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, or it's all night. Most of those calls are cleared by the police department long before the fire department ever gets there. Occasionally that's not the case, just depending on its proximity to where either the police officers are or where the fire department is or the ambulance. Sometimes the ambulance beats us there as well. When those people are contacted, I know a question came up about resources and if Derek's team's contacted and stuff like that. We quite often refer them to Derek's team, hand out the booklet that they provide us with all of the contact information and everything. And it depends on who it is. We have, I would say, do our last numbers 30 to 35, what we consider residents that are unhoused, that they never leave Seaside. They're always in Seaside. They just move around through the city. Those ones have been contacted. I personally have gone with Derek and his team to speak to these people. And a lot of them don't want services. They like their lifestyle. They don't want services. They don't want anything. This is how I want to live, and I don't need anything from you. So in that case, those people, if we contact them, they've already expressed, hey, I don't need anything from you guys. I'll just pack my stuff up and move along. They don't want any help. So those we don't continue to push resources on because they've already made it very clear to us they don't want resources. Those that we've contacted, we've never seen before, never spoken to. We will provide the resource booklet, give them the option, right? We can't force resources on them. Hey, I have somebody I can call. I can have them come out here. This is what the process is. These are all the things that we can offer. And it's a yes or no from them. If they say, hey, I'll just take the information, and if I want the services, I'll reach out, then we give them everything we can and let them go on their way. If they want somebody, then we'll make that call to get somebody from Derek's team out there to come see them.
I have a couple questions. So if they don't want resources like given to them, they're like, oh, I just like my lifestyle and I don't want any resources. Can you tell me if anybody are you guys establishing rapport and relationships with these people? Like, oh, hey, Steve, how you doing? How's your week been?
Yeah, these are people that we contact on a fairly regular basis.
Okay.
I would say that they probably have some sort of police interaction, whether it's exactly that, walking up and, hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 whatever, at least once or twice a week. Like that's why I consider them to be resident, unhoused, because they never leave here. They're always in Seaside. Some of them I've known for my 10-year career here, and they have been unhoused the entire time. And they've been offered resources. Like I said, it's been several years now. When Derek's team first started, we went person by person all the way through the city, documented everybody, so they had an understanding of how many people we're talking about, right? How many people are we looking at helping, et cetera, that we went through and generated this list. And I want to say it's between 30 and 35 that I consider resident unhoused, that their primary city is here, is Seaside. They consider Seaside to be their home, even though they are unhoused.
Yeah, and we can testify to the denial, the not wanting services. We do regular outreach ourselves.
Okay.
And we will encounter these individuals on a regular. So we've had multiple interactions. We've built rapport. They'll see us coming from afar. They'll know us and they'll wave or smile or whatever. And many of them are, kind, people. Some of them are very funny. And the interactions are great, but they do make it quite clear that they're not wanting to try to be put into a shelter or a program or anything of that nature. So they will sometimes accept like the care kit we give, or like if we have hot meal in the moment too. So it's not that we're kind of walking away and they're empty handed in some kind of a support. But when it comes to really wanting to actually be housed, as we want to call it, or put that roof over your head, many of the long-term chronic homeless individuals, unfortunately, some of them, due just to the desire of enjoying that lifestyle, will then say, or, finding peace with it, will say, we don't want, to be put in any kind of program or services. Some of them, due to, the high acuity of a mental health issue, substance use challenge, some law enforcement, you name it, right? There's that poses barriers to trying to get them into services, and engagement is quite difficult no matter how many times you interact to move forward with anything productive.
Okay, so I guess now I have a question kind of for both both of you, Derek, you too. Can we meet them? Is there a way we can arrange that the commissioners can meet some of them or talk with some of them? Just say, how you doing? I'm Ben. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
see why that's not an issue.
Okay,
But so I'd say there's a couple options, right? I know sometimes there's you can make a request to do ride-alongs,
okay,
but then also too, maybe we can schedule when we do an outreach sometime if a commissioner has availability in their schedule to join us.
okay.
That's one way also we might be able to
Yeah,
make
and
that happen.
we've done it too, where we've set up, hey, on whatever day, these couple days, we're gonna go out and this is specifically what we're gonna do. And I know in the past we've collaborated. Yep, we'll have an officer dedicated to go out with you to, you know, to assist in any way that they can. If there's anything comes up in the moment that needs to be addressed. And we've gone and spent half a day going around to where where everybody kind of is at, or you know, where they've kind of congregated for the time, et cetera.
Okay.
So it's very possible.
Okay. And then I guess I have a question for both of you. So I don't know if Seaside does this. The city of Monterey, they have naloxone, or also known as Narcan, widely available through free distribution boxes. So at the Monterey Transit Plaza, the Monterey Police Station, and the Monterey Outreach and Navigation Center, they have these free Narcan distribution boxes. Does the city of Seaside have those? And if not, how can we get them?
As far as just distribution boxes, no. The police department does have naloxone. All the officers carry it. We have it in our cars. I know the fire department, they carry it as well. We have given it to them because we get it from community hospital through the program that's established up there with Dr. Grover. That's where our supply of it comes from. I mean, if people ask for it, yeah, here I have a couple of them, I'll give them to you type thing. But open like boxes just to get it, no, I don't believe the city does.
Is that something that the city might not do, or can you?
I couldn't tell you what either the yay or nay for it is, or if
Okay.
it's even been something that's been brought up.
Okay.
I have not heard it been brought up before. This is the first I've heard of that, even for the city of Monterey. I know that anybody that's coming out of the hospital, county jail, or out of prison, if they had a drug habit, those facilities are giving them naloxone when they leave.
Okay.
It has become standard procedure to give that to them. I know that through experience, just in talking with people. They're like, yeah, no, I have this addiction, right? And I'm trying to figure it out. But you know, when I left such and such, they provided me with one or two, their disposable naloxone dispensers. Essentially, it aerosolizes it when you depress it. It's essentially, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I attended a Narcan training like 8 years ago when I was working private security, and you do a training. I think it was maybe a few hours long, and then they give you 2 containers of the Narcan.
Yeah.
So would you guys be able to put on any kind of Narcan training that the community could come to and give out some afterwards?
I can speak to that.
Oh,
Okay.
Yep.
Derek?
So to first answer your question, the Family and Community Support Program does have our own stash of Narcan. We do have a supplier. I know that sounds kind of weird. Anyway, excuse me. We do have someone that we receive, our doses from as well. And we do give out per request, per discretion based off engagement with individuals where substance use is one of the primary concerns. Something I've kind of thought about recently is when we do our outreach and we send out our care kits, maybe just putting a box in those so they're out in the community. But going back to your question around putting on like a training or something like that, it's something that we can probably help, make the collaboration with the Prescribe Safe program and see if they will do that again. We actually did 2 events in the city. One this year, which was a fentanyl overdose awareness symposium. And at that symposium, of course, besides the education piece, Narcan was also given out. So there's a training and it was given out. Last year, we did I guess it was a Narcan distribution education event as well, where the Prescribe Safe program had 2 videos, 15 minutes long, an English one and a Spanish one in separate rooms. basically the community was invited, they showed up, you watched the video, then you were able to walk away with doses of Narcan. At the end of that event, we gave out over 300 doses of Narcan that were just then out there in the community to be utilized as needed. That we can do that again, you know, as we understand the need, the concern is, we know there's a growth in overdose, you know, losses and everything. So just hearing your question, I'm also hearing a need to continue to do those as regularly as possible. So we can even collaborate, but yes, we can do something again soon.
Officer Moore, do
Yes.
you feel if we talk with Monterey and find out, look at what they've got, what the setup is, how they got that set up, do you feel that something like that would be beneficial to the city of Seaside to have these Narcan distribution, it sounds like self-distribution?
I believe so. I mean.
Okay, that's
the-
something I believe we can pursue. I did give Chief Borges some information about a federal government grant program for it's part of the Biden it's like safe use. I can't remember the term, but it had the test strips for drugs to see if there's fentanyl in it, the Narcan condoms. I can't remember. I apologize. I can't remember the term. And of course, I cleaned out this huge bag of stuff I had, and I think I might have to go through my recycle bin and see if I have those articles. But I might have to ask Chief Borges if he was able to pursue, because it'd be nice to get money from the federal. I mean, they're giving it away. Let's get some money here.
Yes.
And see if we can get those vending machines, and then also we could pursue seeing what Monterey did and how they set that up. And would you suggest we work with the police department to figure out, once we kind of get the basics on it? Should we invite you back to talk about how to present this to city council and get this approved, if there's some kind of approval that needs to be done?
I think so. And it may be something to collaborate with the fire department on too, as well. I think their input is just as valuable.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially since they're also, you know, associated with these calls for service and these medical calls. Ultimately, you know, their expertise for the medical side of it and an overdose is very valuable. So I think their input would also be valuable in
Thank you
that.
for reminding me he's there, because I can't see him. He's back. There he is. Then I'm gonna go to, what are the top three things, or what is the most important thing that you think we could, and I don't even know what our budget is. Last year was, you know, purse strings, but is there anything like you think would be, you know, that your officers training, anything, a pillow, a hug, whatever it is that can help them? Is there anything, you've had a couple minutes to think about it?
Yeah, and I wanted to piggyback on DC Solon's comment as to kind of the overall, I mean, when it comes to wintertime socks and sweatshirts and stuff like that, we even get that at the police department to hand out, because my understanding from most of the people, socks is a huge thing, right? Keeping your feet dry is a huge part of keeping your health, especially in the wintertime. So, I mean, we usually have socks. We put together backpacks that have toothbrushes, toothpaste, you know, all the personal hygiene stuff. And as the wintertime comes with the space blankets and everything, we hand those out. It's obviously limited in the number that we have, but we do, you know, what we can. We've reached out to local businesses. We've gotten some of that stuff, the backpacks donated for free and things like that, to put that together to hand out. I think the shelter I would say is the number one, because I think the biggest issue we have with the shelters that are in the county, and from what I've heard from a lot of the people as we've tried to put them in, is that to go into one of those shelters, you can't have any major mental health issues that aren't being actively treated. You can't have any animals. You can't really bring a large amount of your personal belongings, right? Nothing more than kind of a backpack size or bag size stuff. So I think a lot of the resistance we get from people wanting some of those services, especially in the wintertime, is the fact that they're like, hey, I've got more than this. I don't want to give my stuff up. They don't want the city to hold on to it. I mean, we do have, through Public Works, we do have a container that we can store people's personal belongings in for 90 days, right? They can bring it here, or, you know, if they are contacted by the police department or the fire department, and they're taken for a medical related call and they have to be taken to the hospital, they don't really have an option. You know, this needs to be treated, or the ambulance personnel deem, hey, they're not in the right state of mind, they have to seek medical treatment. They can't make their own decision. Their property, we hold on to their property. We collect it, work with Public Works, it gets stored, we hold it for 90 days. They're advised of that at the time. We also, to whatever address they provide, whether it's general delivery, or if they have a physical address they give to a relative that maybe lives in town, a letter sent, hey, just a reminder, your stuff is being stored here at the police department. We, even if we go and see them a couple days later when they get released, hey, don't forget, you know, we stored your backpack, or we stored all your stuff. It's down at the police department. Just come down, come to our lobby, let us know you're here, and then we'll be able to retrieve your items. So I think the shelter is the biggest thing that could help accommodate that, because like I said, a lot of the shelters, especially in Salinas, they're limited on availability. It's first come, first serve. Most of them, and Derek, you can remind me if I'm off of my time, but most of them, it has to be before like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. You have to make a reservation essentially. Hey, I'm going to come to the shelter that night. So if we contact somebody 6, 7 o'clock at night, we may not have the ability to put them into a shelter. And depending on the requirements, hotel vouchers may not also be accepted. So here we're stuck with this person that needs some sort of shelter and we have no option.
So what in your mind's eye, what would you, a shelter that kind of lets people be who they want to be, allows them to have their animals, which I get. I have 4 cats. It's crazy. It's the animal thing. It's just out of control. They have all their stuff, and we've seen the guy with the carts and all their, all the worldly goods they're bringing everywhere all over town. We've all, I'm just asking, what do you think that would look like? What should we be pursuing? Is it tiny homes? Is it a village? Is it a campsite up on Fort Ord? Because there's space up there.
Yeah.
What in your mind, if you had, if you won the $500 million lottery, what in your mind would this look like?
A small cabin in the woods with no internet. No, I mean, I guess the answer is yes, right? Because it could be any of that.
But it's not a
It's-
building with hotel room type situation because everybody's too close and.
Yeah, I mean, and it could, I mean, so you could go as simple and, I used to work for the city of Gilroy, so we had the National Guard Armory, that was there in town. And so in the winter months, the National Guard Armory opened up, especially in the rainy season. And so people could go and they could take their stuff, and they had a parking lot that was part of the armory, right? So if you showed up and you say that you live in your car, right? That's all you have is your car. Well, you could park in the parking lot, leave your car there with all your belongings, right? And you could go in and lay down on a cot, take a shower, a hot meal, right? They had this. So it was a building, and it was just, I'm trying to remember the number.
Privacy, people were just on
It
cots.
was
playing
cots
camp.
lined up
Boy,
and.
Girl Scouts
Yep,
camping out at
yep.
the armory.
And it was, and I don't recall the number. I want to say it was like 45 or 60 that they could accept. And it opened at 6 o'clock at night, and by 5 in the morning, you had to leave. So it was a place to stay through the night, the cold part of the night, rainy, whatever it is. It was, at the time, it was staffed by the National Guard. So they'd have a couple of people there. You could bring your dog in as long as it was behaved, right? But again, and they had space that you could leave your cart outside, that it was protected from the weather, right? While you stayed inside, you didn't have to worry about it, right? Because it's part of their facility. And it was just, it was open during the prime rainy months, cold months like that.
So, you've probably been to more parts of the city than I have, even though I've done flower delivery and getting to some parts of town you never would have gone to on your own. Just because why would you go to that street? We don't, as far as I know, we don't have an armory at Seaside.
Not that I'm aware of.
I think that was Fort Ord.
Yeah, there is a National Guard Armory out there on Colonel Durham.
Is it used? Is it empty? Is it?
As far as I know, the National Guard is still there.
Okay.
What the use of it is, I don't know. I know there's people there on a regular basis, at least in the office. As far as the rest of their facilities, I would say it comes and goes. Right. Sometimes the parking lots are full of trucks and all their equipment, and sometimes there's nothing.
Right.
So I don't know what the.
Do you think that we should reach out to them and say, look, we have a need, you have a space, This worked in Gilroy, Officer Moore, and I'm sorry, I don't
No,
know if
no.
that's not the correct title. Is that, or if we didn't use that facility, I'm trying to think in my mind without building a facility, which might take away a lot of. What type, where in Seaside would this facility, like I'm thinking the gym at the high school, maybe they got
maybe-
showers? If
Yeah,
they're in
it's-
for 6 and out by 5, would that impact the kids? I mean, that's got, of course, going to the school district, and I'm sure there'll be all kinds of issues.
Yeah, and so.
So then I say, what building would there possibly be that already exists besides the Salvation Army on Fremont, which is just a warehouse for them? It absolutely makes me sick. I
Yeah.
called them and asked them, what are you doing with this?
Well,
It needs to be something other than just a warehouse for you.
yeah, I actually, that business in particular, I know the Salvation Army is trying to sell that
I
location.
asked them if they were trying to sell it, and they said, no, if you know who to contact, I think that might be a great facility for the city, including Casa Noche Buena, who is gonna be homeless here.
The last I knew in talking with the manager out of San Jose, they were trying to get that
Cause I
facility.
manager up in San Jose, and he called me back and said, no, we're not.
And unless it's changed in the last couple months, the last conversation I had with him, because they are one of the private businesses here in the city that does not like the unhoused camping in their parking lots.
And there's a lot of them there. 'Cause
They were very adamant about wanting us to do what we could to
Keep them
and
there.
keep them out because they are trying to sell that building. That was their comment to us.
Well, I would love to reach out to whoever that was and get after them and ask them and confirm that, because we only have 2 business streets in all of Seaside. It's Fremont and Broadway. And if it's an empty building, just sitting there being a warehouse of furniture or whatever people are giving away, that's not being productive economic
No, I agree.
in our city. And that building's a big building. It could be pickleball. It could be housing for people. It could get torn down and turned into something else. There's a lot of potential with that building because it is a big building and it's actually just a physical building with a pretty good sized parking lot.
Yep. And
So maybe-
prime real estate for business.
Maybe we could work together and see what we can do, and we can talk to the economic director. And if it doesn't turn into something for homeless, maybe we can help it turn into something else. Cause we
Yeah.
need more economic activity. So that'd be great. I'd love to have an idea what the shelter is too. I don't know if it's tiny houses. I don't know if there's if anybody even wants that. They're gonna have is it 20, 21, 22 tiny houses at the church? Up the hill, Victory.
Victor, yeah.
Is that gonna go to these, what I'm calling the happily unhoused in Seaside? Or do they know who's gonna go there? Is it their own congregants who are struggling in housing? Do we know if it's?
Sure, I have to explore further.
I'd love to invite them to one of our meetings to find out more about what's happening there, because I think there's something happening there.
Sure, yeah.
And it'd be wonderful to know, especially who's gonna get to the opportunity to be in that housing. I don't know what it is. I don't know what these people who want to live outside. I know most of the comments that I hear is people just don't want to see them, and why can't they go live in the wild out on Port just so we don't have to look at them?
Yeah.
That's
And I mean, that's,
comments I get.
um,
I'm not sure when people wanted to start living outside. It's a hard way to live. But
I know that when you talk to them, and I mean, like I said,
Right.
it'd be great for you guys to come out and hear it from them
Yeah.
and ask your questions directly to them. A lot of them, the reason they stay where they do in town is because it's close to where they can go and get food, they can get all this stuff, right? So, because that question has been brought up, hey, what if we, all right, the city does have quite a few parcels of land out there in Fort Ord that out off Light Fighter, you know, the old main gate that are out there, and their comment is it's too far from town to go and get anything I need.
Right, that's
And-
what I'm kind of worried about. I don't know what's gonna happen to Casa Noche Buena, which do you feel that's been successful at getting housing to people? I think it sounded successful. They've had a lot of people go through there. Is that a benefit to the city?
I think so, but I don't have any, I guess, direct
Okay.
contact with it.
Okay, is there anything your officers need? You know, that we can just some support of anything, I don't know what it would be, but if there's anything, do we need to advocate for increasing the budget to get more of these socks, blankets?
That, I mean, I guess Derek will know. I mean, like I said, I know we've through, you know, our own kind of connections and stuff we've established that at the police department. It is limited. I know we've reached out to Derek and his team before, like, hey, we're out of this stuff. Do you guys have anything?
Right.
So, I mean, I think there's always a need for that, especially in the wintertime. You know, to have that stuff on hand already ready to go that we can go and hand out, whether it's their outreach alone or that we have at the police department, so that, you know, if we need it right then and there, you know, our guys have it. They can grab it and distribute it.
Yeah, and generally in our collaboration, you know, as we think about, you know, the different periods throughout the year, whether it's, you know, inclement weather type season, et cetera, when we are building up our supplies for like our care kits, we do consider what do we need kind of more a plethora of what, and so during the colder season, right, warm type items, especially socks and those things. And generally speaking, if they call on us to respond and support, we haven't really run into an issue where we don't have that, right?
Okay.
You know, we try to be very conscious about that and how we budget and how we, you know, make sure we have kind of a stash of those types of supplies. Of course, you can always use more. We could always use more money. We could always use, right. Anytime you ask that question, you know, but I do also want
More.
right. I do want to, you know, tell, you know, the from our perspective, though, that we, you know, it's not something though that it's like, oh my gosh, we get called down and we have nothing to be able to
Okay.
provide or to help out with.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. That's reassuring. And I'm sorry, are you Officer Moore?
It's Officer Moore. Yes.
Officer Moore, okay, I didn't want to use the wrong title.
Nope, you're okay.
I do feel like homelessness up, even, down, how would go we? I mean, beyond the happily, the 35 people who want to live there.
Yeah,
Just really, I'm just the,
If you take the resident
unhappy.
unhoused out of it, it's a constant, I would say, wave. Because like I said, we do get some that come through here that for whatever circumstance was sometimes it's just like, oh, that's a new person I haven't seen before, and you know, stop and just a quick chit chat with that. They are here 1 or 2 days and we never see them again, right? They're
Okay.
moving through. So it fluctuates. I would say this time of year, as we're going into the summer months, it typically goes up a little bit. The coast is cooler, right? It's hard to live in the, you know, I mean, you go Gilroy, Morgan Hill, it's 90 degrees right now, 90, almost 100 degrees. That is a very difficult environment to be in when the sun comes up before 6 in the morning and sets after 8. So you see an increase towards the peninsula. It's cooler. You know, and then as it goes into the winter time, that it'll fluctuate. It'll go down. I'd say in the winter months, it goes down more so. But this period of time we're in now, I would say it increases. So it's constantly fluctuating.
Okay. And do you know anything about the safe parking at the adult school?
I have heard of it. I have not had any direct contact with it. I do know 1 or 2 people I've talked to that have they're like, hey, I found a place to park at night, and they've mentioned it. I don't believe we've had any calls for service up there of any kind.
Because it'd be nice that people can go there and just feel safe and not have conflict. It's just hard when there's people like in my own house. Sometimes there's conflict.
Yeah,
To me, it's
no,
nice. It's normal. It's very normal, but it's still, when you're with another person, sometimes it's
Yeah,
you get a bunch of people.
I've heard that
Darn.
people have used it, and I have not, like I said, I don't believe we've had any calls for service that have been there.
Well, I hope that you feel that we're a group that you can come and speak to if you feel like there's something that we can assist the police department with. And I want to thank you and the police department. And I am saying this from the bottom of my heart. I swear there are less illegal fireworks in my neighborhood. The military over a little bit up the hill from Noche Buena. There are less fireworks, and I'm very, very grateful. I'm not sure what it is other than your work, and I truly appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Some of these questions are for me, just better trying to understand the services. Others kind of do come up that are. So first question is, how do you apply? Is that something that, like, if somebody was wondering, they go to the police department, or is that?
That is a good question, and I do not have an answer to that.
So they could come through us and we have a contact number, but that in and of itself, because it's not operated by the city, that's a school district thing, right? They probably had a way to send out communications, through the school district with kind of the referral process, because it's also a criteria. You have to have children within the school district where the family's being assessed and meet some level of criteria for the McKinney-Vento homelessness and that are residing in their cars, right? And so I think for not wanting it to be just seeming like it's just open up as a safe parking program for all unhoused individuals, they probably kept a tight kind of communication network where it didn't really go out to a widespread group of there are other programs, yes. So the Orphan Productions, which has a couple safe parking sites, I believe, in the county, is one that's a general safe parking program. There's still certain criteria, your car has to be registered, certain things like that, I think. But that's more general. And we do have then the information for that. And that basically would be a call to the program itself, and either us submitting kind of information as a referral to them or an individual or themselves just reaching out and saying, hey, I need a safe parking program. And then they will proceed from there.
So, okay, so if we don't have a safe, I mean, you have to meet certain criteria.
Mhm.
So if somebody's in their vehicle, and what happens if you guys put their vehicle, like?
No, I understand exactly kind of where you're coming from is like, hey, I don't know where to go, so I just parked here. Usually, so in a neighborhood, most of the time the neighbors will call, hey, there's this car here, I don't recognize it, people are sleeping in it. It usually we will respond and contact that individual or individuals, just to confirm, hey, do you live here? Do you not? Right? Some people, they get upset and they have an argument in their house and they go sit in their car. Right? And that's their space and they're listening to the radio, reading a book, doing whatever. Right? Hey, I need some space from people I live with. Others that it's like, hey, I just pulled over here and I figured I could park here. A lot of times it's like, hey, just so you know, the neighbors and stuff are here. They've called about you. And most of the time they're like, okay, I'll just leave. Right. And they get in their car, they drive away without anything. There's no additional like police contact from there. The parks are closed, like Laguna Grande Park, the parking lots, those are closed at night. The city puts up the chains and stuff at park closing. They're clearly posted, park closes at it's sunset, I believe is how it's listed. Roberts Lake, right along the freeway edge there, there's signs 10 PM, no parking after 10 PM. No overnight parking. There are city muni codes that go with that. If we find people there, a lot of times it's like, hey, just understand you're in a no parking area. It is posted. Sometimes citations are issued, especially if it's a repeat person that's been talked to. But if it's somebody that we contact for kind of the first time or it's been sporadic, we've talked to them. It's like, hey, just understand that you're not supposed to be parked here overnight type thing. And they're allowed to leave without any sort of citation or anything like that. Very rarely. The only time that
Point of order, sorry. So, because this topic affects my family very personally, I'm gonna have to recuse myself at this moment. So Commissioner Mugen will chair the meeting for the remainder of this agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sometime.
I would say It could, but in order to have it towed, there would have to be some more police interaction. Whether that person is, realistically, they would have to be arrested for some reason. And their vehicle couldn't either be secured, because we have a right to protect their property, right? So if their doors don't lock or they can't roll a window or up or something like that, we have an obligation to tow their car for the protection of their property, right? We can't take somebody away from their vehicle and leave it in some neighborhood and let people ransack it. So in that instance, yes, we would tow their car because we have an obligation to protect their property. Other than like towing, other than that, would fall, it would have to meet some criteria in the vehicle code that would allow us to tow it. I know right now, the city is working through their 72-hour parked vehicle, being essentially left unattended or abandoned. There's some stuff that's going on with figuring out that mini code and stuff like that. So we currently aren't towing for the violation of 72 hours until the city, attorney and stuff determines that. So it's very rarely that we actually tow cars. Yeah. And so we make every effort. Like if we have to arrest somebody, and they are living out of their car and it's legally parked and we can secure it and stuff like that, we will do everything we can to not tow it. Because we realize that's a hardship, right? I mean, coming up with the tow fees alone, even if we waive the city fee, it's expensive. It's hard for people. It would be difficult for anybody to go if your car's towed for 3 or 4 days and to pay the impound fees, et cetera. So we go do as much as we can to not have to go down that route. Because we're human as well. So we understand the hardship, and we're not here to make people's lives difficult.
Are there waivers or something? Are there, if somebody is in that situation? I mean, we've heard about this in other cities too, especially registration, right? Because that gets, registration expires, you're living out of your car, you don't have the money to pay for that. It's complicated.
Yes.
And difficult, right? I mean, there are laws and then there's situations and we're human, and so how do we?
I think it's still a challenge, and as we kind of have discussed in this commission about identifying gaps in supports, funding, and services, that's one of those areas, right? When it comes to folks having challenges with their vehicles, and at any level, right? They find it difficult to afford to pay for repairs, to get that new registration, to yeah, and right, and unfortunately for folks who live in their vehicles who have those issues, right, you can imagine how hard it is when they do desire to want to be in housing and pursue services and things, but the limitations of just their vehicle, not being able to afford whatever it is related to that. And right now, no, there's no such programs that I'm aware of that will help pay for towing fees, that will help pay to get new registration. It's probably a case by case if a program has designated funding specifically for those things, but typically not. Your car is treated as your own responsibility in many ways when it comes to services. Yeah.
And then another question about, okay, so you said it doesn't happen very often, but if it does happen, is it a city-run yard that it goes to?
No.
For profit?
Yeah, city does not have any sort of tow facility or like we contract all our tow services. We have a regular rotation list of, trying to think, it's 5 or 6 tow companies. And so it's whatever company is up next and it ends up going to their yard. The city does not have any yard or storage facility for any of those vehicles.
And then if there's no way for someone to pull their car out.
So yeah, it's a complicated thing, right? Is because of registration cars stuff that's all run through the state. So like I said, there is this, the city charges a fee to get your car released that goes to the city that we can waive, right? We can waive that fee to get that. But the tow yard, you know, that's up to an individual business. And it's going to be dependent, obviously, on which tow yard it is, et cetera. And then there are certain state requirements that are required, right? If your name is not on that registration, even expired, they're not going to release the car to you, because they have requirements through the state to operate as a tow company, that they can't just be releasing cars that aren't registered to you. But that person can be allowed to get the property out of the car. So it's not that we're keeping them from their property. They can get their personal belongings and everything from it, but they may not be able to get the physical car. And there isn't, unfortunately, there's not a lot of workarounds with that because of DMV. And like I said, through the state and stuff, there's certain requirements tow companies have to meet. And I think they're governed partially under California Highway Patrol for that there's certain things they can't do. The law just says they can't do these. It's on the individual tow company, but they can essentially put a lien against the car. That lien has to stay on there for, I believe it's 30 days, before then they can go through whatever their process is, essentially then to become ownership of the car, and then the car usually goes to the scrapyard. Or if it has value, right? If it's an old beat up car that has really no value, it goes to the scrapyard. If there's value behind it, then the tow company will essentially put that to auction to try and recoup some of the costs that they're out. It's as clear as a puddle of mud.
You know, and imagine in a situation where you want to help someone, but you're have nothing, there's nothing you can do except pay a fee to get it done. So I'm wondering, might be something. I'm gonna guess there's a need. I don't know whether there's a need, but it sounds like it doesn't happen very often. But if it happened, maybe it's not once a month, right? Maybe we can come up with a budget to support that. Because I don't. If that's the only place they have, and that is their property.
Yeah, and it's difficult, right? Because it's not something that the city can control. You know, if the city, for instance, had its own tow yard and its own tow, you know, even if we used another tow company, hey, we need you to pick this car up and take it to the city-owned lot, right? Then there's something that could be done there, right? There's obviously still regulations and stuff we'd have to follow, but it's easier than a private business, right? As tow companies are. You're welcome.
Oh,
Yeah. Yes.
Officer Moore, what if one of these cars break down? I mean, I've seen a lot of these broke down cars that people are living in. We had a lady come and speak to us when her car had broke down, and unfortunately for women, if you cannot move your car and escape in your car, you get a lot of men circling around because they know you can't easily get away.
Yes.
Even if you're 50 years old and have a lot of other health problems. What happens when these homeless, unhoused people, I like that, or maybe it's better, I don't know what's a good term. What happens to those cars if they're just literally just broke down and they can't start, they're not running, they're broke down? Is that another tow situation?
It could be, yes. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Like I said, the 72-hour, you know, your car's been parked 72 hours, that right now is at the city attorney's level, and they're trying to figure out that muni code, because that is a muni code. It's not a state code. It's a municipal code here in the city. So that's they're dealing with the legal stuff with that. If cars broke down, it's leaking fluids, it's missing what are considered major parts, right? Battery, engine, transmission, wheels,
It's stuck in the
parts,
middle of.
parts that are trying to make it move,
Right.
yes. Then, yes, it can be towed. And that falls under the California Vehicle Code. It describes exactly what those requirements are. But yeah, stuck in the middle of the road where it's causing a traffic hazard, yes, it can be towed for that.
Okay, if somebody just needed a gallon of gas, is that something the police department would give somebody a little bit of gas to get them to a gas station, or is that something Derek's team does, or?
Yeah, I
And-
think Derek said
I think it's a case by case, kind of in the moment,
Right.
because I actually can say I've collaborated on a call with an officer, and that was a particular situation, and they did take them to the gas station and help them, and they paid for their gas. So
How did it-
unfortunately, this was
Okay.
probably 2 years back in the program. But nonetheless, and it was a rare situation, right? That doesn't come up that often. But they were more than compassionate and supportive and helping that person get gas.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a very rare thing for the gas thing. I know, even myself, there's been quite a few of us that it's that, right? I need a gallon of gas, or I need this, that we've just paid it out of our own pocket. We haven't asked for reimbursement from the city
Mhm.
or anything. It's just, this is what you need. Okay, yep, I'll take you to the gas station, get you a gas can, buy you a gallon of gas, and
Yeah,
just
oh, that's very.
do it that way. I mean, I've seen where it's like, hey, I need to get my car jump started. I mean, we've assisted with that before. I've even seen some of the tow companies come out and provide a gallon of gas or a jump or swapping somebody's tire because it's flat. And they just do it. They're not asking for money or anything else for it. They just do it, out of the kindness. Yeah, they work for a business, and
Right.
I'm sure their dispatcher doesn't like them just doing it, but they'll do it. Right. So,
That's
I mean, you
nice.
do have those people in the community that are very, caring and will go out of their way on their own.
If we could, do you think if we had more, another safe parking? Could we use more safe parking in the city of Seaside?
I think there could be a need for it. I think there's going to have to be a lot in the background that needs to be done when that's determined, set up. I know we explored that or had that during COVID 2020, 2021. It's putting a lot of people in the same place that don't necessarily all have the same views.
Right.
And you get a lot of people with mental health issues and stuff like that. So it did provide some challenges to the police department and the fire department, because I was there a lot with them. There were some challenges and a lot of police response to deal with situations because of all the people that were put together. So I think, could the city benefit from it? Probably, but there would have to be a lot of talks first to figure out some of these issues and some of the things that came up, even, from Derek and his team, as to how to address certain things. I think there needs to be more planning, and that I understand because of COVID and everything else. And it was kind of spur of the moment, like we needed this, and we didn't really have a chance to have those discussions. It was like, hey, we found an empty parking lot that the city owns, and this is what we're going to do. And so I think we learned a lot from it, and there's a lot obviously to discuss hopefully before we pursue down that again, as to how to mitigate maybe some of the challenges that we faced the first time.
Well, that's great. And I heard you mentioned mental health issues. Do you feel like if people needed mental health support, that they could get to mental health support, or is that? I mean, I know
Yeah.
Ohana just opened, but that looks pretty ritzy up there. I'm not.
Yeah,
sure
I mean,
it's-
I think,
So,
yes, they have access to getting it, but it's a two-part piece. Because of the way mental health is dealt with, and this is from a healthcare standard, nothing obviously we can change. A lot of these people, they're almost, I'm going to use the term, I don't know if it's politically correct, test subjects, right, for all these medications that are out there. Because one medication may work for somebody that has bipolar, and it works great, and it it helps them, but it may not work for the next, right? And it may only work for so long. It may only be 2 years or 3 years before now it's a different medication, right? Because their body's adapted to it essentially. Or what we see a lot, and I know Derek and his team hear it. I've heard it. The fire department hears it. I don't like taking my medications. My medications, they make me feel not myself, right? I feel down. I don't, it's almost, and maybe this is a term I've heard, I don't have the high or the excitement that I do. Typically you see that with people who suffer from bipolar, where they're in a manic episode, they feel great. They got a lot of energy. They feel like they're running 9,000 miles an hour. Medication brings them back to what we deem as normal, and they don't like that suppressed feeling. And so it's like, I don't want to take my medication. I don't feel the way I normally do. Right. And then they go through these roller coasters. And we hear that a lot, unfortunately, with a lot of the mental health illnesses that are out there.
Housed or unhoused.
Yeah.
Both those issues are the same for both, because.
Yeah. And so I think,
The street, and it's not that hard. And then plus people have to want to have a different.
yeah, and I think we supply a lot of the ability to get to those services and give those options. A lot of it sometimes I think comes down on the individual. But that's again, part of the healthcare system, right? If the doctor deems that they're of sane mind and they can make their own decision, whether we say, hey, look, they're not, right? They're acting, their illness is affecting their ability to act. They don't need services, right? They're saying they don't want them. So we can't provide legally, we can't force them. Right. And so it's unfortunately a roller coaster that, we all see, because it happens everywhere. And so, but I think the city does a good job through us, through Derek and his team, through the fire department, to be able to provide people access and the ability to get mental health services if they need them.
That's great. Do you feel the same about if they were drug or alcohol, if they wanted to get into rehab? Is it available, or is it a long wait? I literally have no experience with this at all.
I think it's a
wanted to get in, would they?
better question, unfortunately, for Derek to answer. I think our ability to provide them with where those resources are, the numbers and how to do it, and what that process is, or assistance through Derek and his team, that process is. I think that we do a good job at providing that. Then it comes on to the individual service and stuff like that. But I think Derek might be able to answer that question.
Yeah. So first, I concur with a lot of what was shared already, with everything that was shared, not with a lot, with everything that was shared. To expand upon both those questions of the mental health and the substance use, depending on the level of functioning of the individual, as he's saying, even with medication aside, just speaking to the mental health, the level of acuity of that mental health challenge, engagement can be very difficult. And what we find is many of the folks we encounter that are unhoused have been connected to behavioral health, have Medi-Cal, and a bunch of other things that, are supportive to meeting their needs, but engagement is the challenge, right? Because their level, again, their engagement to those things is difficult, because they don't have the organization, or and so that's just functioning. But then when we also think about access, so, in the city of Seaside, many of the individuals who are connected to mental health services receive them in Salinas, receive them in Marina, at the two behavioral health sites. People can't get there, right?
Right.
Also,
Did they get that when they put the new county building?
I hope so, right? These are things that are being advocated for.
It's still a ways off,
but
but we
without-
don't have behavioral health treatment in Seaside, is what.
Not a direct facility, while partners to behavioral health might have a program here. Like behavioral health itself doesn't have a building and a site, right? So without the regular engagement for those folks, right, on and off and things, right, they're not getting the ongoing treatment to address it, right? So there may be periods of lucidity and they're functioning well, and then next thing you know, they're in the episodes, and then due to transients and other things, they get lost, as they move along and shuffle along, in terms of providers who are looking for them. are trying
Right.
to have that ongoing engagement. And yet we saw them one week and then, they moved somewhere else. They don't have phones, right? Things like that, so it's not just so easy to say, well, the mental health diagnosis or that in and of itself is the reason why they're not engaging. There's a multitude of things that get in the way. Same thing with substance use, right? If we think about our more severe users, functioning is going to be impaired at a level where engaging in services is going to be challenging.
But do
And
we have a drug rehab in?
yeah, oh,
CI, or
yes,
do
yes,
they-
yes, yes. We have both outpatient services through Sun Street as well as Genesis House, which is a inpatient program.
Okay,
as
so
well.
we have that.
Oh, my-
Okay,
yes.
but the mental health piece is what's missing in Seaside. You have to go.
It's not necessarily missing. Again, it's here through partner programs that are connected through Monterey County Behavioral Health and things like that. And again, when we engage, it's never we just engage and don't think to mention or offer up trying to get them connected to
Right.
mental health,
No, I just wanted
to
to know
substance
what's
use, to
missing, the-
legal, you name it, in any area of need to help them towards stabilization. We try to assess and get them connected as best as possible.
Missing things. I want to be out there advocating for it.
Sure, sure,
And
sure.
it sounds like the most important thing is shelter.
Right. Sometimes
I mean,
too,
maybe not permanent housing because I have a
Right.
lot of sense coming, but I mean, permanent housing, you gotta have money for that.
right. Sometimes too, just real quick, a lot of these individuals, they don't have IDs, vital documents and things too, that sometimes you need just to connect to services.
Right.
Right. And so again, when we talk about gaps and ways to try to figure out how do we support the whole person, right? We have to consider those things as well.
Right, well, I thought we heard in our listening sessions that some people had interactions. I'm assuming it was with the police. I don't remember, maybe either of those two do, but that their personal documents got taken when they shouldn't have gotten taken. And I don't know if you guys remember that from the listening sessions now.
So I think.
Monterey.
Yeah,
Oh.
and I think as a general comment of experience overall, not necessarily speaking on Seaside, and I'm not even sure Monterey, but I think as general feedback that some unhoused individuals and families experiences when, whether it's the encampments get swept or, there's a 72-hour posting that says you got to move along, we'll come back, things get picked up and within their stuff that might look like it's a trash bag or something else, they happen to have some of their vital documents in it or something important. And it's just not as visible or made to be, it's not made to the awareness of whoever's cleaning up the site, whether it's public works, there's not an intention to go, I'm going to destroy your birth certificate or take it or throw it away. It's more so, well, they were doing their job and
Right.
responsibility for cleanup. Those
Well, it's
things
not
happen to be amongst it. And
Right.
unfortunately they got, and so it's,
I almost want to
You know,
get them like a safe bag, but
Right,
then.
and so that's something to think about.
Everybody else's safe bag.
Right.
So.
When you bring
Uh-huh.
up something that, is generating maybe some ideas for, some kind of as part of our care kits, we provide a vital documents folder or something where they can keep things in
Could
it
we
safe
scan
and
So there was no, they
Right.
may not trust us. I don't know. I just, I don't, I'm like, where's my vital documents? I don't know where my birth certificate is. Maybe it's in a safe deposit box, but it is really challenging. If you don't have a driver's license, you can't get a job, or an ID, you can't get a job. Get a job. Well, I don't have an ID. Well, get a job so you can afford an ID. It's a caught up circle. Well, I
Yeah,
appreciate your answering our questions and I don't know if I had good questions and I don't know if we can advocate for some kind of shelter of some sort. It's just but I would like to maybe find out who you were talking to about that building, the Salvation Army building on Fremont, and see if they really want to sell it. Let's see if we can get the city to buy it.
yeah.
And do something with it.
I think we have that information downstairs.
Okay,
In our
great.
office.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hope you-
Sure.
If we ever think that, I think one thing that I'd like to hear before is actually talking to the folks most proximate to the problem. Like, if we can talk to those who are at risk of being homeless or who are homeless, and actually get their thoughts and ideas about maybe that's what it is. Oh my gosh, that makes it really fun to them. Why don't we put all these people together and ensure that we're not having fights and issues and things?
Mhm.
I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah, I think they're obviously a key part of it, and I think their input is valuable in determining how to structure that and how to do it.
Thank you guys.
No.
We very much appreciate you, Officer Moore and DC Sullins.
Yep.
Yep. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
All right, we're moving on to agenda item 6B, review and revise presentation to request funding partners regarding the feasibility of contracting mobile hygiene services to serve low-income and unhoused community members in Seaside. Recommendation is that commissioners will review questions and feedback about the presentation given to the Neighborhood Improvement Commission on the feasibility of contracting mobile hygiene services to meet the bathing needs of low-income and unhoused community members in Seaside and throughout Monterey County, to identify changes to be made to the presentation for thorough and effective communication and seeking funding partners. So are we going to be able to put the presentation up, or were we going to hear from our guest?
Well, we have our guest here, Sarah has joined us when we first started. And she's here to help us kind of make this presentation, you know, better and to make it a joint presentation.
Okay.
So that's ultimately what this thing is.
Okay.
Would you like me to pull up the script or the PowerPoint to share?
I would say PowerPoint.
PowerPoint?
For this
Sure.
script is based on.
So this is the script in our agenda packet?
The script and the PowerPoint is in
Okay.
there. Yep.
Okay. So I suppose what you said, the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's our.
There we go.
Okay. We can look at the script here.
Well, I don't think we need to change the script. I think we should focus on the PowerPoint. The
Okay.
script can be adjusted based on how we change the PowerPoint.
Okay, okay.
Sarah, what do you think?
Whatever you guys want.
Sarah, you've been so patient. I'm sorry we went so long.
No, it was very interesting. I'm glad to hear you do that. Good question.
Oh, there we go. All right. This doesn't need to be changed, right? The first few slides were just
Yeah,
the,
it's just a service,
okay.
right? And then this slide is just a.
Right, this is,
We felt, I don't think there's anybody else to add. And we probably should check it just to make sure, but I don't think so.
it looks accurate to me.
I helps on there, good, okay.
Yep. Mhm.
So you want me to just kind of talk through what?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I think that we should talk about why we're here today. I think this is one of those things that got a little confusing with the committee last year. Why are we here? What are we asking about? Who are we? What are we saying? Is this a service? Are we buying this? Et cetera, et cetera. So it felt like just kind of level setting on why we're here today. Talk a little bit about our journey, which is essentially just the last 12 months. Want to introduce Refresh Start, and then we want to talk about the fact that we're going to be making a request to this presentation. Pretty simple. And then this next slide is really just a little bit about more detail about the journey itself. We talk about the fact that we were here about a year ago. And during that year, how we learned about Refresh Start, they are local organization. Here with us today, lovely Sarah and her husband, and hopefully some of her clients. That we received the proposal, and that obviously I just said work, and then they are here today. Sarah, is it okay to call you the visionaries? Sure.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then the next slide is, I know there's a lot of words on here, we could probably cut this out a little bit. But a little bit about who Refresh Start is, what they're doing, and what their goal is. Sarah, I updated this to, I used some of the language in the text you can see in the Word doc, to make it a little bit bigger. What I could do, if you guys want to do this now, if you want, we can kind of bold some of the key words, maybe like draw people's attention to some things. Again, there's a lot of words here. The idea isn't to repeat this, but to kind of have it there. I'm guessing that then we give them like, we gave them copies last year too, right?
We did.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Are you saying we gave them printed copies of our handout of our presentation?
I think so, right?
Because I had something from Nick, just completely had no idea what our thing was, what our ask was. They were like, well, they were like, oh.
So yes, I remember, so when, for the presentation, I sent electronically everything to their staff liaison person prior to the meeting then, which they were supposed, right? So that we learned some things, right, as we go, right, is that we should take responsibility for providing our own presentation information rather than counting on someone else for sure. So that's something that we can make that adjustment for.
Look at this till the side, or you want to just let me go ahead and vote?
So I guess the question is with this one, while there is wordy, and if we do then give them the presentation, I'm assuming the slides will be summarized, right? Based off your script, you're not going to read it word for word. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be changed if you're just going to summarize it anyways. But I don't know. It's not my commissioners. You have to just, yeah, maybe just do that.
People just don't read anymore. And these sound one of those people, I find myself, or I can't make it to the end of the sentence. But I think a lot of people would just look and not read all these words, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, but right. So I understand where you're coming from, and I can definitely concur that I do know that happens. But I think I want to still do refresh start service, their service, by making sure we are truly highlighting who they are, what they do, and their goal, right? If people can choose to read all this or not, like I said, it's still going to be stated out loud verbally as a summarization, which means they'll receive what is here. And then sometimes people like to later on when they have it, when the moment and they're like, hey, I want to remind myself about that presentation they did. Then the option to read it is still there.
Okay, so just to be clear, so the slide that's up here right now, this is on the PowerPoint, not on the script, but we would actually read that out loud when we're down there giving the presentation.
No. Based off the script that she has, she basically has a summarization of what this slide says. While they will be given the PowerPoint, whoever the speaker is will just give a little summary of what the slide says. But we still want to just leave it as is for them to read later if they want.
Oh, well, just a quick question. So on the script, it says slides 6 through 11, who is refresh start, and it says quote through the impact slides. So this is slide 6. Is this an impact slide?
No, the impact slide is 10 and 11.
Okay.
So did I say in that script that we would want to introduce refresh start at that point?
It says who is refresh start, quote through the impact slides, and then should we have Sarah and Nick present the organization?
Yeah, I think this is a great transition to Sarah and Nick.
Okay,
right.
Okay.
And in their own words, they can, really summarize while this is still here, right? They can summarize though in their own words, right? But I know for me, right? If I'm sitting in an in-person thing and I hear something, right? I'll maybe absorb it in the moment, but then retention after I leave sometimes might be the challenge. That's why I'm saying I still like that, even though it seems wordy that these things are here, because later on, for me at least, that's how I kind of function. I'm gonna read it and refresh myself on the information. Hey, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
I usually remember things later after my first observation of it. I'll think about it like at the end of the night and be like, oh yeah, there was that presentation I saw today. And then I would pull out the packet and read it.
Right.
I mean, that's just me. I don't know if everyone else is like that or not, but
yeah, but it again, It's you're the commissioner, so I
Right.
don't want to think that you have to take what I am saying is the way to operate, right? If the commission ultimately should decide, but I'm just here to give, my pieces of guidance as I see.
Okay. So,
So thoughts, Commissioner Cunningham, especially because you had mentioned about the wordiness of the slide.
Well, I'm just saying, people look at it and they just say straight words.
Mhm.
Maybe, and this is what I do at my work. I just make each sentence a paragraph, so there's more white space. So first paragraph, refresh was found, blah, 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 new line. Just to have more white space in it, so they don't say, oh my gosh, I have to read a whole paragraph. I wish
that's a
people.
good idea.
It
That's
just,
a good
for some
idea.
reason, people seem, if it's more bullet item-ish looking,
If that was moved up higher, where it says who they are, what they do, their.
Right.
goals, raise up higher, and then you can make breaks in the paragraph.
Okay.
You can
Mhm.
break it into like, is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
just because for some reason it seems like it's not so overwhelming when there's more white space.
I
Sure,
agree.
okay.
I agree.
Hey, I like that.
Are-
It's
are
it's
we-
a combination of both of our.
Are
ideas.
we giving this presentation to the NIC next month or the month after?
I don't know if the NIC has any money.
They will,
Oh,
going into
okay.
the fiscal year, yes.
Will they
So
be making the
in
same?
the next fiscal year, so. This, I guess this would be an outreach to the NIC because what they're supposed to be doing, I know that they have discussed in recent meetings about the whole process is. They're supposed to come up with a clear, concise process for all commissions to understand how to give a presentation. And when that is, right? They're supposed to be sending out communications to that. And as a staff liaison, I haven't gotten anything yet. We're not in the new fiscal year. I think they're still deciding their process before they're going to send that out. But I don't mind also reaching out to them and inquiring either as to when we should expect to, give a presentation, when they'll start receiving presentations.
I do have to say, when I was at one of the city council meetings, after we got nothing from Nick, I pointed out to the city council that the homeless commission got nothing to help feed people. And I, tried to shame them into feeling bad about it, because I did hear later that somebody from Nick, that they kind of felt bad they didn't give us anything. When we're spending $15,000 on a sign, $8,000 a tile for Seaside Stars, which granted is nice, but couldn't come up with a penny, $5. And I was, and one of the council members said the vision of Nick was to help neighborhoods, not homeless people. So I think one of the things we would have to ensure, if this is going to Nick, that we explain helping homeless people improves neighborhoods
Yes.
by having less homeless people, and being able to take a shower makes it easier to go to a job.
Right.
But that has to be part of our presentation, because again, somebody from one of the city council members made it clear that they didn't think supporting anything we did had anything to do with neighborhood improvement.
Okay, so we need to stress neighborhood.
Yes, thank you,
Right.
Commissioner Cunningham. I think you're hitting the nail on the head with that. Right, what was their resistance about this? And I think,
They didn't sound like they were gonna
That was-
give us much of a budget when I was.
and when
at
you
the
look at
budget
what
meeting.
was approved, they're all beautification type projects, right? Things that are gonna just
Right, new
make
bike
something
racks, the wraps on
look
the
better
wrap
around
on
the city.
Mhm.
But we need to be able to show, well, yes, directly addressing the needs of the unhoused and the homeless will definitely do that, right? As we,
Not even homeless people sleeping.
right, you're not gonna have trash in your neighborhood. You're not gonna have encampments to clean up. Right, exactly.
Is improving the neighborhood.
Yep.
But I also have to say, I'm not sure what we got from the city. I was at both budget.
I'm gonna
meetings.
cover that
Okay,
at the
great.
end. Yeah.
But they also they kind of made fun of our request. I was really mad. I actually left at the second night after the presentation was made, because my feelings were hurt, and I was mad at myself because I wished I'd stayed for the interesting part of the meeting when they debated different funding.
Mhm.
But they kind of made it sound like what we were asking for was silly. And that hurt my feelings. And so somehow, and anyways, we'll find out where the budget
You'll
is.
find
but-
out. Right, so we got some, we got, so
Our-
just to bring some small peace of mind before we get to that agenda item, we did receive some money.
Okay, well, I
So I'll
advocated for
clarify where,
The SNP bus is funded
Right.
12 months this year, every single month, because they cut the budget to $10,000, which was 2.5 SNP bus.
Okay,
From 6 SNP bus, and my CAP people came out and 3 people put pressure on city council, and we got that funded.
okay.
And 1 person from the audience had a good experience with SNP. It does not take a lot of people to move the city council, is my point on that, but you have to show up at the meetings.
Yep.
So anyhow.
let's get
those-
back
those
to the
are my
presentation
points.
first.
We have to-
Sarah's time, let's get back. to
Yeah,
the
we have to
presentation.
make clear in this presentation that this is about improving the neighborhood.
Okay.
That's who we're hoping to get money from. Which might be adjusted when they come out with whatever Derek was the guidelines
Okay.
that Derek
Um,
is coming.
I guess the only other thing, I don't know if I would mention this here in the presentation.
Going back to this one, or?
Or, oh, no,
Oh, it doesn't
I don't
matter.
know where to mention this, but I had been told, and I had brought it up at commission meetings before, that they told me that the commission would be moved by personal stories.
That's in,
It is-
yeah,
okay,
yeah, I
alright.
think we'll get to that.
Okay, we'll get there.
So this is the next slide that was, following the one where we just said we're gonna make some space and adjust the. So here we go. So access to hygiene, creating opportunities, sense of community.
So maybe we could say the best neighborhoods.
Yeah, is there some way we can definitely do that neighborhood improvement type, messaging?
So is your computer connected to the screen or Derek's computer?
That's mine.
Okay, okay,
I'm still-
okay. And where would it, improving neighborhoods go in
I would
this?
say sense of neighborhood. rather
Mhm.
than sense of community.
Yeah.
And then the best neighborhoods. Focuses on the neighborhood. There may be many neighborhoods provide.
Okay.
Right, and like, I'm wondering, how do we say
Neighborhood.
access to hygiene, like some way around cleanliness and hygiene for individuals and families is equivalent to cleanliness in our communities or neighborhood.
On sense of community, the last line said healthy spaces.
Oh, okay.
Something around that said, when everybody has access to hygiene, the entire neighborhood is a healthy space in which everyone can enjoy a high quality of life, blah, blah, blah.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll read the code. All right, Sarah, go ahead, say it again, when everyone would.
That sounds really
Right.
When everybody
Yeah,
has
can you
access.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, something to the effect of when everybody has access to hygiene. Neighborhoods are able to enjoy healthy spaces for the entire community, something to that effect. I said it differently, but something like that.
You still use the high quality of life, which sounded.
Yes,
Something in there, which I think.
which provides a high quality of life for our community. Something like that.
Everyone has access to hygiene, neighborhood, they're able to enjoy these spaces, or what we gonna, how do you wanna change that? High quality life.
Mm,
A high quality of life and healthy spaces.
Let's see. Well, if I could think about this more.
I mean.
Cause I can spend more time I can spend more time rewriting it once we, with some things, once we know,
Develop.
the focus, right?
Let's see, right, to develop healthy spaces that promote.
When everybody has access to hygiene, the community enjoys healthy spaces for everyone to ensure a high quality of life for their residents. Because there are things like, you know, if there's not availability of restrooms, other,
Happily homeless and seaside go into the bathroom.
mm,
I just want them to have a place to go to the bathrooms. Seems like a small kindness.
I mean, I know where they do in San Francisco. So you want that to happen.
All right, are we? Yep. All right, the details.
And somewhere in here, I don't know how I'd want to word it, but some kind of impact statement, something along the lines of, like healthy hygiene to the unhoused is neighborhood improvement, like just making an impact statement, like this is.
Like a
neighborhood improvement.
direct,
Just
yeah.
direct-
How is this
directly
neighborhood,
saying-
how is this improving the neighborhood?
I like
How is
that.
this neighborhood improvement?
Say they had a homeless guy sleeping behind their business after they put all this investment in Seaside. And they were frustrated because that person slept in and screamed and naked and jacked off and all this stuff right behind their business and downtown Broadway is a neighborhood too.
Okay, so what I heard you say was providing hygiene to the unhoused is improving neighborhoods, is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, so helping the unhoused is neighborhood improvement, and you could use bold letters
I
there,
like that,
is, and then maybe even underline neighborhood improvement.
Yeah.
That's like an impact statement, like at the
And
end.
how can we do it? Which is like cleaner streets,
Yes, yes,
safer spaces for children, just different things like that, right? Because
Yeah.
you're thinking
is
about.
neighborhood improvement.
Is
You could say
neighborhood
it after
improvement.
each thing, like bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
Like it.
I like it. Marketing.
So Sarah, this is your section.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the details. Okay. So we're gonna go over, and I'll probably bring pictures.
Like 6 through 10 slides, whatever they are.
Okay.
Up to you to- But
So,
I do- but
I
I'm
think
So we
sorry.
might have some image, picture slides in between. Oh, you have them. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that's great place for it, but I felt like it was.
Yeah. So, okay. So we'll be going through, how our shower trailers set up.
This was the hygiene one. Okay, the next one
Mhm.
is the details. And then, which this one is kind of just bullet pointed. It's not, those aren't paragraphs of it. Right?
Yeah, and I think maybe if, I feel like we've been hearing concerns, I've heard it a couple of times, I think from both of you about people concerned that if this happens, that it would draw people, more people,
Yes.
unhoused people to locations in the city.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's why I added-
and he mentioned it again, so I think that could be something that if people are already thinking it, they're gonna think it. So maybe, I don't know if this would help anything, but clear that the location would be at the direction and of the city and very thought out by the city, the location of it. And,
okay.
okay,
And we would want to collaborate and partner with it in some way too, as a agency that can then work with individuals who come to use this in terms of the case management and helping them get connected to services or whatever it is to ensure that they're, engaged somehow. Because I think that helps answer some of the concern around they're just going to come here and stay. What's behind that implied, I think, is they think, oh, well, we're just inviting them just to take a shower. And now they are here and they're not going to go anywhere. And there's nothing else that's going to happen for them except for that one-time shower in a moment. And now we have a homeless individual here who won't leave. No, that's not the idea behind this. So how do we
Mhm.
convey like, not only is this the hygiene part, but this is also the added piece of trying to get them connected and
Yeah.
the other pieces wrapped around them that they need towards
I
stabilization.
can say it's a critical step in being able to get to know an individual and what their needs are in order to help them within, reach the services that they need.
And with something like this, as our team is on several collaborative groups or involved with several collaborative groups across the county, such as outreach committees, right? Such as the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers and all of its partner agencies that do some form of health services in the realm of housing, right? If the ones that are located in Seaside also found out if we brought this here, they would want to probably try to partner or get involved in some way
Oh,
as
yeah.
well,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I think so too. Yep.
Mhm.
Speaks that exact thing,
Mhm.
especially if you have some folks that, I don't know if you're gonna have any clients that can come, or even if it's a video, I think you sent me one, and I haven't done it, but, if that is something that would be wonderful to listen to. Like, you brought this to Marina, right? You
Mhm.
brought it to Salinas, and then there were services that automatically came because they saw it as an opportunity. to
Yeah.
provide.
Yeah, and we joined with services that are already being provided in Monterey. So, I mean, the people, and that's the thing, the people are already there. Okay, the people don't come for the showers. The showers are going to the people.
Right,
That's why it's a mobile shower trailer.
right.
That's the whole point of the mobility. It's not the same thing as these different shower locations where the people are struggling to try to get there or not get there. That was the whole idea that my husband was really intrigued about, was the mobility aspect. And he did have this, he still has it, this dream of like just driving the trailer around and like just stopping for one person and giving them like a shower, which I'm like, you can't do that. He was like, I just stop on the side of the freeway and give that guy. See, I'm like, no, you can't just do that. But that was his idea, was like wherever, he didn't want the people to be burdened by trying to get the shower. He wanted to provide it to them where they were. So,
Well, can you
Yeah.
like pick them up in like a bus or a van or something and take them to the shower spot?
We just need to get this in Seaside first.
Okay.
We can figure out if we can.
I have heard,
Yeah,
so there are churches, I know the one church that's out of Prunedale that does take a van down to Chinatown and does pick people up and takes them back to their church and gives them showers, then drives them back.
okay.
That is their, that's one of their ministries. So there are people that do it.
So yeah, the next one, that's pictures.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll get more pictures. I mean, this is just kind of from our website.
Are there any videos in
Well,
this?
that's the next page is a blank page, basically. It's the discussion. So I don't know if it's like an interview.
Oh, okay.
They're nice shower.
Okay.
No.
Impact and then the discussion.
Yeah, and I just said a discussion, like, I don't know if that's the right word, but it feels like this is an opportunity to play a video.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
to
okay, so
clients, actually have them speak from their.
it's probably easier for the clients to take video of them where we're providing the shower versus trying to confirm that they will be able to be available at a certain date and time. So, yeah, were you able to see it? Oh, okay. No big deal, no big deal. So we have some material. Yes, we have some, and there are people though that are associated with us, volunteers and things like that, that can come. And maybe just speak a little bit to what they've seen or their thoughts on it too.
Sure.
People from the community, so we can get, and I don't want to get too many, so maybe like 3, I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah, we don't want it to be too like long. So the video I sent you is actually a video of a gentleman that had just received a shower, and he was kind of saying what where he was in his life. And he was just getting ready to go to a job interview. So it was a,
That's great.
yeah,
That's
and so, and I mean, and when you see him, you'd be like, I wouldn't even think he didn't have a house. So I think we're trying to, I don't want to say we're like trying to cherry pick, but we're trying to get compelling videos.
Yep.
So we have that one. We thought it was really
That's
good.
great. That's a
Yeah.
perfect example right there.
Yeah, so we didn't know if you wanted us to just like make a YouTube and start like putting them on there, or if we should send you the individual videos and you can put them into the, I didn't know how, I'm not tech savvy, so I don't know what's the easiest way to do.
If there's links to that, we're going to put it on YouTube and we link to that because you have multiple.
Okay, so maybe I'll ask Nick what he wants to do, because he's in, yeah, so he's not able to be here. He says he's sorry. He's actually in Iowa right now with the people that have had the flood. Him and his brother went to help. So he'll be back on Saturday. It was spur of the moment, so he feels bad. He texted.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's again, people need, he's like, there's no plumbing, there's no like, you need toilets and stuff. So anyway,
So-
I do have a friend that may want to also speak. Her father was living on the streets and most of her adult life, and then he ended up passing away from an infection that the doctors had said if he'd had proper hygiene, he, wouldn't have been in that bad shape. So I don't know if that's a compelling, but I feel like that's a compelling testimony for the hygiene aspect, because
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
it's a big problem. I mean, cleanliness is very important.
Mhm. Okay, this is the first slide after going into the funding portion. So the options, right, I see how you did it. We're trying to explore support through the NIC, then city council, and then, other opportunities as necessary.
That's all. we can say, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
We're doing our best here.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, moving on.
And then I
Oh.
think it's important.
Is that okay, or do you need that slide
Yeah, I
again?
think so. I mean,
Okay.
It's a story, right? This is why we're here. We're making you guys
Mhm.
first, especially because we think Seaside has to commit money to be
Mhm.
able to ask other cities to.
Right.
And the ask is, I think what we had talked about was doing both, right? I mean, I worry about this a little bit, because if we ask for the $24,000 compared to $185,000, we're probably gonna get the $24,000. But I don't think it hurts us to ask for.
No, never hurts to ask, right?
But for the 5 days a week. In either of these scenarios, what are we asking other cities to do? Because isn't this having the showers in Seaside? So this is only for Seaside, either of these funding.
Well, I think it depends on what kind of funding we get. That's where we're kind of in this weird spot, right? So if they were to say, hey, we love this idea, we would be happy to help pitch funding for the whole year. This is how much we can fund. And go forth and ask for more money from other cities.
Yeah, but the other cities would have the shower in their city.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Okay, so I'm assuming what would happen is, say we only got like $100,000 from Seaside money to do it, and then the other money came from other spots. We would have it in Seaside for a proportion of days equal to the amount of money we put up.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what the fair thing is, I think. That's what I believe what would happen, but I mean, how would we clarify that in
But
the
that's what
slide?
we talked about last year, like 5 days a week, if it's 5 cities, then each city ends up with it 1 day a week.
Right,
And then so you take, what do you have, calculator going?
So the pilot, funding for a pilot, maybe you would say Saturday is exclusive to the city of Seaside.
Mhm.
And then funding for a full year, you would say where it says location determined by city staff, maybe you say something, locations shared with other cities to be determined based on funding
Right.
provided by said cities or
Okay.
something, maybe something.
Yeah, it'd be the 5 days a week because the pilot, I think, would only be for Seaside because it's only
Yeah.
one day.
And it does say, yeah, so it's 48 days total in Seaside,
Right.
days in
So, yeah,
Seaside.
so that one makes sense. So, yeah, we need to just clarify for the full year somehow. The idea is trying to, get other partners, funding partners and share the services.
Oh my gosh, just say things and I don't remember what I say. Let's see. I can't remember what I said, but let's just say,
Location.
where it says location
Right, that's where you guys.
to be determined, shared between cities in proportion to, funding. Does that even make sense?
Kind of.
Yeah, it's-
Proportion the proportion of cities.
I think it
funding
does.
towards the cause.
Okay.
And-
Each city's funding towards the cause.
And we don't want to make it complicated, in our description or even in our wording, right? It doesn't have to be,
Mhm.
we want to make sure that it's able to be understood, from, the member on that commission that, needs the most simplest explanation, right?
So funding is $185,000, and what we're suggesting is that location would be shared and determined between the cities who participate in proportion to funding.
Well, are we asking for three different things? Are we asking, 24,000, that's one day a week, Seaside, and Seaside pays the whole 24,000, and we get one day a week in Seaside for the whole year, right?
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's one option. The
Mhm.
second option is for Seaside to pay 185,000 to have 5 days a week for the entire year, just in Seaside. The third option is for Seaside to find a portion of it and find partners who want to buy in for other days of the week. Is that what we're asking?
It could,
That could be, right?
Because what I calculated was that 48 visits for $24,000 is $500 a day. So 24,000 divided by 48, I came up $500 a day.
That's what it is. 500's the prorated. Yeah.
And if we're the second option on the list, that Seaside 100% of the time, Seaside funding all $185,000 for 260 days a year, because I took 5 times 52. That came up to $712 a day.
Okay.
well, we're gonna pay somebody too, right? That
Yeah,
means-
well, I'm not arguing the price, I'm just saying that's what it works out to. And if we wanted to see if, and the reason to get other partners is to have it here more than one day a week, but not 5 days a week?
No, the reason to get our partners was to share the cost.
Yeah, but that means we have to share the days.
Sure.
So what I'm just saying is the sharing the cost to be somewhere between one day a week and 5 days a week in Seaside, because they might be willing to fund one day a week, which is $24,000. And that's fine, it's better than nothing, it's better than what we have now, which is 0. If we fully fund the whole 185,000, that's 5 days a week in Seaside, and then there's no one department with. Exactly, so I'm saying there's something in between, so is it, we'd like to have this in Seaside 2 days a week and go out and try and find 3 partners.
I don't think we know the answer to that. I think it's dependent on what the partners potentially would be willing to do.
Right, but I'm just saying, when I look at the screen, I see 2 options, Seaside funding everything in Seaside and having all the days, but then I know you're saying we're gonna get partners, and then I'm.
I'm not saying we're getting.
Oh, I thought I saw her somewhere that we're gonna reach out. Yeah, but but what are we asking for those partners for? Because and all I'm saying is, because we're trying to find funding in between 1 day a week and 5 days a week. That's the reason to have partners, right?
I think your point, there's 3 options here, is a great point. I don't know how to make it clear to them when it's really murky, right? This is, we can say we're looking for partners, we can say that it's at a rate of whatever it is, and that we would like to find other places to do this with. I don't know, if any of that, but I think your price.
I mean, does it hurt? And I don't know how this works, but does it hurt to just decide on one and say, this is what we want? And then if there's any kind of questions about an alternative way that then you can then present, like, well, like if we just say, you know what, let's just fund the pilot. Is that more palatable?
I see. Like,
Is that more palatable? Let's fund the pilot and then,
And we could market it. We could do marketing for the pilot, like you could do videos and, oh, this is what we're doing with our pilot program, and then more people will see it. And then people might, other cities might wanna.
might want to get in on
board
it.
For the $185,000 and share days a week, for
Mhm.
5 days a week.
I mean, in some ways, that's kind of what we were hoping to do this past year, right? Like kind of get
Yeah.
a little bit of money to do something
Uh-huh.
and then talk about it at other city councils. So I mean.
that might be the more accepting, of our proposal from the NIC, right? Because some of their feedback too was, we haven't even seen this
Mhm.
operating to even know if this is beneficial and blah, 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 right? That not asking for the big ask yet, right? Because we don't even know how it would operate or function in Seaside and if it will truly be beneficial, right? Right, that maybe we just trying to ask for some, right. Right, so that we, yeah, so I'm thinking maybe, and I like
Yeah.
kind of Sarah's point there of maybe we ask just for one of the pilot,
Mhm.
the pilot support funding for the pilot, right?
Mhm.
And then, because that might be more easily sellable, and to then, Chair Strickland's point, right? We can market it, we can really sell it up, and then we will have kind of the, after that pilot, we'll really have the data or the evidence to
Mhm.
show this is beneficial, this is valuable. And
Right.
and
Yeah.
SNP and we got.
Yeah.
Right.
And
$48,000.
And I
Okay.
think too, like looking at this, just seeing that number 185, it's a really big number, right? And so I don't know if that's gonna lose people right away.
You're right.
The more I think about it. So I would be pro focusing on the pilot, and then we can also, if we're focusing on that, if there's concerns, then this is the whole thing. It's a pilot. And as things come up, any concerns from residents, things can be changed, things can be modified. And you're not locked into anything. And it's a pilot, right? You see and you learn from it.
Should we add anything in the slide under funding for a full year that says like, prospect for, future endeavor, so it doesn't like scare them away from wanting to, fund us?
I'm changing the slide to just funding.
I think we should just take it off because it's too much. And again, you have that 185,000 intimidating number there.
Okay.
That then automatically they see that and they're just gonna not even consider even the pilot, in my opinion.
But we know how much it's gonna cost a whole
And-
year, 5 days.
And let me give, right,
Mhm.
and let me give another piece of perspective on that.
And
We
that's-
submitted a work plan, right, with
Right.
the option on it, and it
Right.
didn't get, so I can tell you one of the portions of funding that did not get approved
Wow.
was $185,000 ask for the mobile hygiene unit. So, right, and so. Right, so I'm thinking, let's maybe
Okay.
not, yeah. Cut off our nose before our face.
And also too, I mean, I think the benefit of the pilot is that as it's, I think it would be being successful with the community, then you take that experience and that data and you go to the other cities and you say, look at what
Right.
they're doing,
It's not, oh, we want to do this, we are doing this.
Mhm.
Yep, I like it.
Then I'm assuming that we could, at some point, because you're not, in the first scenario, 24,000, you're not hiring an employee.
Yes, we are hiring an employee. So basically, yes, so
But this 5 days a week, I mean, you have to have a 5-day-a-week employee.
So exactly, the kind of, I don't want to say schematics behind it all, or that Nick and I discussed is basically with the funding for the full year, we would need that 5 days a week because we would be hiring employees and it would be Monday through Friday. And we don't want to hire people and then pass up other opportunities unless it was at least a full year of employment. But with the funding for the pilot, we switched today to only Saturdays, which would enable somebody that we would hire, an employee, to be able to have a full-time Monday through Friday job and then work Saturdays as extra.
Okay.
And so that's why we switched the day to Saturdays for the pilot. But the cost includes the employee, which is something that we've always wanted, was to be able to also generate jobs. And we have the person that we think would be the employee too. Yeah.
I don't be a downer, I'm just saying, if we're gonna, it was just confusing to me. We're saying we're gonna go get other people, but then we're not showing, well, no.
It's a valid point, and I think it actually brought us to a
Decision.
Yeah.
better decision around how do we
And I'm just gonna.
present.
Derek. They're the ones, oh, no, you have to ask. them.
Okay, initially, right, we were a little, we were ambitious and and we did it, we did ask for it in the work plan and we tried, and so, right, and we did push it a little bit, but then we, right. We came back down to earth, and so.
I don't even want to know what the star is. That sounds
Yeah.
expensive, yeah.
All right, so I just changed the slide and I got rid of full year on pilot and just. the
So that'd be the same thing on benefits slide as well, right? Take out the full year stuff for now.
So you just have benefits, the pilot?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's fine.
Yep,
And then next slide,
summary.
summary.
I get rid of the or. and-
Yep, and the same thing, that's right.
Okay,
Mhm.
can we go to the next slide?
Yep,
Which cities are thinking of, are we thinking of asking?
so we don't need that
We're
right
not,
now,
we're
right?
not, can we,
Well, okay. So
Or-
we're not asking, but do we want to mention that?
how about we, which other cities could possibly benefit from this and just leave them there?
Or,
Well, but I don't want to.
so how about this? Some questions you might ask is, are there other cities currently utilizing these services, right? That, I think that question could just be reframed, because then we can say yes for sure, right? As she already had listed, Monterey, Salinas, I'm sorry, what was the other?
Marina.
Marina, right?
So just change.
The-
growth to
The
Salinas.
services have, I guess, maybe to say that the services are currently operating in Monterey County.
Right.
Okay,
They're already currently operating in Monterey County, so.
Starting at
Yeah, there you go. Refresh.
Brady,
Oops.
Monterey County, is that what it's-
Mhm.
Yes.
And then we can say yes in the following cities.
Yeah, so we're currently in Monterey and Marina. Oh, wait, can you go,
sorry.
the vouchers?
All right, and then why not provide vouchers for showers?
This was another question that came up last year. And this is the answer that I thought was important, because this is, I think, something I have read about in other places. It was the privacy aspect and the fact that they're bringing their worldly possessions, right? And if you go into the sports center, you can't say, where do you bring all your stuff? And this is a place.
I would add to that. I don't know if you want to there, if there's a script, but of concern is security.
Secure, right?
Privacy, yes, but security. When you are there, you are in a locked stall. You are by yourself. When you're in a communal shower, anybody could walk in
Mhm,
and attack you to some extent
mhm.
if they were mentally, of that mindset. So this is definitely secured location that you can be in as you are bathing, et cetera, right? So that I think is something to add. Privacy and security, maybe.
And then, I mean, I would think, right? I mean, is this voucher question related to, the assumption is there are communal type showering opportunities in a community then?
Well, the
Yeah.
documents from last year mentioned, or somebody had said something about the sports center offers showers for a voucher. I think the Salvation Army might,
Salvation Army just has a drop-in
Salvation
center.
Army, it's just open.
Right.
You
It's
just
a
go
drop-in
in.
center. You just have to show up during the actual times, but there are already places that exist as more communally based where you can just show up like the Salvation Army on
It's in San
in
City.
Sin City there, right?
Yeah, not the
Samaritan
one
Center,
here.
right? But then again, too, right? You got to be able to get there. There's right as I liked how Sarah phrased it earlier on. The whole concept behind the mobile hygiene services is the mobility, meaning you don't have to try to find your way to us. We come to where you are, knowing that there are challenges to getting to where the showers are, right? But then I appreciate the mentioning of the security and safety piece. And Salvation Army has a system in a way that they have it set up. But I think a regular old recreation center, a
Or a
sports center,
gym.
or a gym
know.
that
They
doesn't
have a gym.
have, because that's not what they are based in, their specific organization services that population. And so then they know how to engage with them and know how to build a communal showering type setup that many organizations would hesitate to even allow that, right? Because they don't know who's
Mm.
coming in at the same time as well,
Mhm.
you know, and so I mean, there's many ways to answer this voucher question that I think we can show the benefit to the mobile hygiene.
Or maybe a question too would be something like, are there enough adequate showering facilities
And that's-
in the city of Seaside, or are there open showering facilities in Seaside currently?
Not even open on the weekend.
And
I
then
mean-
even on that Saturday, thank you that we're talking, that's a great point. All right. The day that we're trying to offer this to is a day where the organizations that even offer that it's not available. Right on, right on.
Right, maybe we could say mobile hygiene versus vouchers for showers. And give reasons why mobile hygiene is better than vouchers. Instead of why not provide vouchers for showers, why not say mobile hygiene versus?
Why is mobile?
Like compare and contrast.
Yeah,
Okay,
So why don't you write that up? Send it to
okay.
Cool. Next one? Oh,
well,
wait,
did
the
we
last
want
question.
to,
sorry.
will this service increase the homeless in our city? And
So I'm
right,
gonna get rid of possibly.
Yeah.
What do we want to say?
I didn't we talk about? that,
So
like, an hour
again, this
ago?
speaks back to Sarah's, response earlier around the mobility and the reason why it's mobile. Meaning it's not that it's inviting the homeless to them. They're already there. It's
Right.
just bringing the services to them
Right.
instead,
Mhm.
right? And so that's how we kind of answer that question.
Okay,
Right,
Right.
because I mean, there are people in Seaside that need showers, right?
Let's think about the 30 to 35, as he said, resident unhoused, meaning they may never end up, receiving housing or at least a severe enough level of challenges in there being unhoused that the hygiene services are going to be one step maybe of helping alleviate some of that and getting them towards stability.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know how we can kind of, maybe if we need like a visual aid for this, that will demonstrate, because it's almost like people think if you build it, they will come.
Right,
Okay, well, we're not building it.
right.
So it's not that concept, right? And I think that's what people are thinking. Oh, well, you're providing service now. Everyone wants the services. Now, all the people from Monterey County, people from Marina, Monterey are all going to come now and be in Seaside because they want to be close to where they know the shower is. So I think somehow, maybe I have to think about this. How do we indicate that no, basically, we're going to be strategic about where people are already encamping and we will mobilize there and assist them at that location or something to that effect, right?
And it might not necessarily be in the same spot one Saturday versus another, right?
Totally.
That's
I
correct.
mean,
Could
that's,
be a
yeah.
more of a congregation, blocks or half town away. And then on that Saturday, okay, well, we have a lot more of the
Well,
folks
that's
over
right.
here.
Mhm.
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 Yeah. Okay.
I wrote a couple notes, Sarah.
And related to this question is, as we had, our collaborative partners from our first responder groups here, police and fire, like somehow communicating, like this is going to be a total collaboration too, right? So when we're thinking about the safety, security part, police will definitely be involved from the start of us developing this pilot, and helping engage us with the safety security piece. We as the service providers will, from that perspective, fire more like medical, you name it, right? To help alleviate some of the concerns around what problems will this bring by having this service, right?
Mhm.
And so to show like we've kind of thought of those different areas, and we're going to be thorough in how we develop this so that all the partners will be involved, to ensure, as much success as we can.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it's interesting how that third bullet question is phrased. Will this service increase the homeless in our city? I mean, I might even change that question and say, will this service decrease the homeless
Yeah,
in
I
our
think
city?
that's the better
By
question.
providing
Yeah.
renewed hope, self-esteem, and hygiene.
Yeah,
And jobs. maybe,
And jobs,
job
yeah.
opportunities to get jobs.
Yeah.
To get a job, but it's an opportunity to feel comfortable going to a job when you're.
Yes, or applying for a job if you're clean.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
So you want me to keep?
just change
So-
increase to decrease, I guess.
Yeah, on that
On
last
that
question.
last part.
So,
Will this service that benefit the homeless in our city?
Will this service benefit? So instead of
Instead of increase homeless, we take that out and we say, will this service
benefit,
benefit or maybe even possibly decrease?
benefit and or decrease homeless in our city?
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay, so you want me to go back to the original wording then? The goal is to provide renewed hope and self-esteem. How do you want this answered?
Renewed hope, self-esteem, and confidence to apply for a job and go to a job.
Well, to interact in
Mhm.
society.
Confidence,
Because you're,
yes.
I mean, it would be horrible to be filthy, dirty, smelly, and then.
Well, what are your,
supposed to go.
I mean, even if you go, right? What are your chances of getting hired if you're unkept? Probably not
Right.
very high.
Yeah, I agree. So the confidence.
Okay, I'll rework this a little bit, Sarah, I'll send it to you so you can. reuse it.
Perfect. All right, next one. Next
Yep.
slide. Okay.
Final thoughts?
Three final thoughts.
To do something.
Yeah, I like that. These-
It's by providing hygiene.
Oh.
There we go.
Yes.
We're gonna put that in as much.
We're getting
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, right.
It's like subliminal in the background too. It's like it's popping up.
Yes. See, brings up. Mhm.
Bye.
Providing hygiene services to those that need. To our fellow seasiders.
I remember, so when we were kind of exploring this towards the beginning and we had first engage with the group that's out in Orville or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on their name at the moment.
Haven Hope on Wheels.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the things he had mentioned, I think as I recall was and I'm trying to remember how he said it. To improve neighborhoods. It'll come to me. Let's give me a second. Yeah,
Okay.
you can continue the discussion around that, but it'll come to me in a moment.
Circles for a neighborhood by providing hygiene services to those in need. Right?
Seasiders. Because it's for Seaside.
To Seaside residents.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then what about?
We're gonna get to the end. I'm gonna go, oh, yeah.
To request time, or depending on today's outcome, to request time with other cities' homeless commissions and or city councils to make the same.
Same or similar ask.
Same or similar as.
We're not joining with everybody. Strike the whole
Yet.
thing.
I mean, our next step would be to see if the pilot.
Right.
Why would that be a pitch to help them help us get this money? I think our next step is to work with Refresh Start, and do we need a church or somebody that we're working with where the shower's gonna be? You know, to plan the logistics of having showers every Saturday.
Before we know if we're gonna get funded.
Let's say pretend we're getting, if our next step, assuming we get funded, is what are we gonna do when we get funded?
Just say work with community partners to determine strategic location and logistics. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can,
for the pilot, yeah.
Mhm.
so can we start calling some of these community partners now and say, oh, hey, Victory Temple Church, if we get funding for Refresh Start to have mobile hygiene 4 Saturdays in a month in Seaside, can you partner with us? And we see if people say, oh, our church can partner, our building can partner. Can we do that right now, or do we have to wait until they make a decision on giving us funding?
I'd say instead of the way you're phrasing it is the assumption that it's going to happen, right? Versus is there interest, right? If we can make this happen, right?
Is
but
there?
yes, you can start seeking interest from community partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started gathering interest.
All these people are interested.
Right.
Well,
And I say interest,
Guarantee.
Right.
This happens.
and I'm saying interest because we can't speak to any organizations committing until we actually are officially in the process
Okay.
of doing it, right? So we want to be careful at how we're communicating things like that.
Okay.
Because, we say it the wrong way, and the assumption then is there's a full commitment, and then we can't then actually follow through. Right?
so the way
Yeah.
Yes. So the way that we're in Marina is through the United Methodist Church and in cooperation with iHelp. So as you know, iHelp, it goes to churches in the community and they get a meal and spend the night. And so we piggybacked on the night that they go to Marina at iHelp with the permission of the United Methodist Church to be in their parking lot. And so when those gentlemen show up, they get their meal, they get the shower, and then they can get their bed set up.
Mhm.
Oh, we can definitely do. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
This is the night.
It just so happens it's a night for men. Yeah.
Right.
Because that's what the Marina church has. I think they just have the men because they keep the men and women on separate.
It's separate, right? And they
Yeah.
switch different locations.
Yeah.
and
So if
which
there
speaks
is.
to y'all showing up where they are, right? Because they're
Mhm.
already going to be brought there through the iHelp program, right?
Mhm.
So again, right, kind of that question of was it going to increase the homelessness? Like, no.
No, and these are people that have to be qualified to get into this
Exactly.
program.
Mhm.
They're working. These are, working people that, they're definitely trying to actively improve their situation.
Right. Oh, I know what I wanted to say about the Haven of Hope. Now I remember. So I think also too, sometimes people are misinformed around who these services, like what is the clientele that are accessing these services? And remember, he kind of explained that, hey, we have to stop just saying homeless, because he explained there's a large population of low income individuals who maybe not or don't have access to a regular shower. They work, they do actually have
Well-
some bit of stability to them, but they still just don't have the regular access to meet their hygiene needs. And so they also do take advantage of the services,
Okay.
you know, as necessary. You know, and right, because you think about shelters and things too, right? Like there's not showers in you know, some of the shelters, right? Because they're just day shelters or overnight
Mhm.
shelters, right? You know, or the iHelp sites, right? And so how do we kind of show like, you know, it's not just any old person just randomly off the street that is, you know, like there's some organization to this, right?
Well, I think
And that
to,
we need low
yeah.
income needs as much as the unhoused, you know, so that it's, you know, sometimes people for whatever reason shy away from the homelessness thing because they just,
Saturday. Saturday.
Mhm.
So I don't know. if-
Mhm. yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not suggesting we shouldn't reach out to them,
Sure.
but maybe that's something we can do and
Another one of our next steps would be how to communicate this service to the people who need this service. Are we gonna put an ad in the weekly? Are we gonna, like, there are Seaside Police and Seaside Fire, gonna make flyers for them, little business cards they can hand out to people so they know, hey, if you want a shower, you can go on Saturday. And here it is, or here's the number to call where it is.
Sure. I think what that's going to be figured out, you know, when we're within the processes.
List that we're gonna do.
Yeah,
Promote
and I can say we never marketed, not once.
Right.
And
It's not ever an issue of getting a,
because that was part of how we decided on our locations. Was we went, there's already people there getting other services. So we joined in.
I caution a little bit of saying that we're going to do that because then it speaks to that whole concern around what you're inviting then the homeless to come and to stay and all of that, right? We can, right, we know how to engage and maybe then help to encourage to access the service as it will be a benefit, you know, and I think that's the whole part around the partners coming together, you know, and that engage at, you know, whatever level with the homeless when they're out there, you know, to then go amongst ourselves, like how would we, when we are out there, help spread the word, but not just put out flyers and notices, you know, just willy-nilly.
Somebody or it could be in that kit.
Yeah, okay, right, at our right, and at with discretion, and we should definitely say with discretion on that, right?
Yeah.
Not just.
Yeah. I think it's probably understood. I think for the site itself, we're gonna talk about logistics. To me, plain logistics is communications too.
Mhm.
So I think we're
Okay, yeah, we don't, because we don't have to go into
to
every single detail, and they're not gonna want to hear it anyways, trust me. Yeah,
No.
so, yep,
So what I'm hearing from this is the flow pretty much works. There's some tweaking and some editing we want to do. Around some of the slides. Sarah, I can work with you on that.
And is there
And so
any,
what is it? So NIC is determining their game plan, is that what I'm hearing?
yes, as far as I understand, because I haven't received any communications or anything yet, and, you know, nothing can happen at least until the new fiscal year. And so, yes, but again, too, they have to have a process, right? You know, it's got to be an official process that they have to have, and they have to communicate fairly to all, you know, commissions. So, yeah, to have an opportunity.
Okay, all right, so I can work on this a little bit. I'll send it to Sarah. We'll, you know, we can get it back to the commission.
We're actually
And-
really spent time, so I'm really proud of our group.
so when is the next meeting times or what,
Yeah, what is our next?
It's the fourth Thursday of July.
So, yeah, so that'd be July 25th?
so that's when you meet next, or
I-
no?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yep, July 25th.
July 25th, so you might not be here.
Yeah, my son's coming back from college and he might stay out for the last week of July.
Can we call a special meeting instead, Derek, or is that not allowed?
We can call a special meeting. We just,
Just
I
have
just
to
gotta
have-
find I just gotta find a date that, Chambers will be available and first.
Well, and then when is the actual,
We don't know yet.
We don't-
And I
We don't
said-
know.
We
Okay.
don't have that yet.
potentially August or, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But they started in August. We
Yeah,
were
but ours was right after.
Right.
I think it's gonna be expected to be, so part of two, I think moving forward with them is, as I'm saying, like, they're gonna have more of a formal process in there, how they communicate what the expectations are, is also them needing to adhere to a timeline. So I think we should expect August, as sometime in August will be when we'll probably do that, because at least as far as I understood from last fiscal year, they had submitted the proposals late. When they started their process and finally received their last proposal and then submitted everything to city council, it was late per what the city had wanted to have it. And so I think this year it's going to be a little bit earlier when we should probably expect to present.
Because all that money has to be in movement. All the projects have to be started before the end of the fiscal year or the money goes back to the city. And they're running out of time to get all their projects done. If they don't get things done until December, then January, then February, because some things only happen.
Right, okay.
So, but anyhow.
Okay, so do you, are we going on the next topic?
I suppose, so we're all good?
Yeah. So today
Thank you
was,
so
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch.
Yes, thank you so very much.
So, yeah,
So,
reports, can we go to reports from
hold
commissioners?
on
Derek?
one moment. Let me
Okay.
just see if I wrote this as an action item, meaning just a motion to accept the revisions.
It just.
No, this was just a
reviewing questions.
review. It didn't, it wasn't so we're fine. Yep.
Okay, so reports from commissioners, Commissioner Cunningham, anything? Commissioner Mugen? Just real quick, I want to mention that I spoke at the May 2nd city council meeting. The letter that I've read it, pretty similar version of this that I've read at our commission meetings that I get in the city clerk twice. I basically read and paraphrased the letter in my public comments. And there were responses from the acting city manager and the mayor. So if you go to the City of Seaside YouTube channel, the May 2nd council meeting, it should be within the first half hour of it is my public comments and their responses. So I wanted to report that. And then I did want to report not specific details, but I did have an old friend and classmate pass away last month who was living in homelessness. And I guess it's being investigated as a suspected overdose death. But out of respect for the family, I'm just keeping more details private at this time. And that's all I have to report tonight. It is, yes. Derek, are there reports from staff?
Yes, so I just wanted to briefly share the approved proposed budget for the next fiscal year as it applies to the homeless commission. So let me just pull that up.
Budget meetings and 2 budget workshops are really interesting. Until the end of that. Everything's for-
Okay, so as you can see here in the middle, kind of middle of the page, it says homeless committee right here. Management Department of Recreation. So there's 2 line items there. So there's the community support line item and then department consumables. So all the way across there where you see FY 2005 request, that's our budget for the next fiscal year. So we get, 27,500. So the 2,500 is in this area of our work plan. which is the Part C, presentations for homeless solutions, support, facilitated mail,
Okay.
the listening sessions type stuff, support miscellaneous needs for commission, community engagement.
Okay.
So your challenge coins idea, name tags, things like that. We got all the money in those areas, so
We're
that's.
doing those.
Yeah, so you can see 1,000, 1,500, total of 2,500.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Now, for the consumables area, we got $25,000. These are the areas of our work plan that the council approved the funding for, which is the top 3 here.
Okay.
So we get the 15,000 for the food insecurity
Yes.
program.
I want to do that right away too.
We get the 5,000 for the holiday donations to local homeless advocacy organizations and nonprofits. And then we get the 5,000 donations to local youth focus.
We need to start reaching out.
This is amazing.
So that's the total of our budget, which is 27.5. It's significantly larger than last fiscal year. Huh? Yes, so we can feel a little bit.
There you go.
Right, we can feel a little bit encouraged because the primary things that they cut were the funding for the one-time and emergency expenses, which was hard to define anyways, and I think they just didn't understand then how to quantify that and what that meant. And then with the 10,000 as well, and partly is they saw like spay and neuter, and they're like, we're doing the snip busting. So well, because of the fact that they had just talked about the snip bus right before this, and so they saw repetitiveness in some of that, unfortunately, and thought that that's not really worth putting money towards. And then those other things that, they just thought that's not really the responsibility of the city
So we didn't get.
yeah. So unfortunately, no, even though, Commissioner Cunningham did a good job of trying to advocate for that. And she explained that, in the actual budget session that you even talked about that directly.
I
So,
hope somebody does help I help with that though.
yeah.
Like
But
seriously.
I would say overall, we have to feel somewhat good about this
I feel
comparable
really
to
good.
last season and last fiscal year.
That spay neuter, you have to understand our budget because we do not have a shelter in Seaside, an animal shelter. The city has to budget money to pay the SPCA, who's sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think Chief Ford just said, from a mouse to a horse, it's $250 if you abandon it at the SPCA.
A horse?
Well, any animal that gets abandoned, surrendered at SPCA, it's $250. So the budget this year is $68,000 for just abandoning animals at the SPCA. Because you abandon them for free, the city has to pay for whatever the SPCA charges. And one of the ladies and the chief spoke, they actually worked out a better deal because to pay $200 for a mouse is ridiculous. They did work out a deal, but the price goes up in July, it goes up again next year. $300, our budget is heading towards $100,000 for surrendered animals. Those are just people who don't get their animals fixed, who just dump the kittens and the puppies at the SPCA, which is one of them, get their dogs. And this is one of those deals where you can either pay now or you can pay more later. And it really is a benefit to everybody in Seaside to provide $25 spay neuter clinics 1 month. And they funded the first 6 months, halfway through the year, they're gonna go to the budget, this gives us a second chance, a second bite at the apple to go to that meeting and promote things we wanna do. See if we get more funding.
Mark our calendar.
So,
Should make sure next year we start spaying neuter off because.
You're right. So, right, and so another piece to that too, right? So speaking to the increased costs with SPCA, that's just speaking to in general to the city incurring more costs for its budget. And so it's having to really think, okay, where can we subtract? And so like that $10,000 was, if the city's like, unfortunately, we have to reabsorb this, because it's speaking to some things we're already paying for. And really, this $10,000 to some of the understanding and whether or not we think they're, frequently, coming and engaging in services, or it's extremely beneficial. A lot of to the explanation is some of these things taxpayers are already paying for, and it's supposed to be county coming in and helping to provide for some of these, needs, whether they're doing it or not, right? But the concern is, okay, we're asking the taxpayers to double pay, right? And so that's also some of the justification from the city is why they don't believe that funding should be included.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's still exciting, and this is
Yeah.
great. This is great. Sure. Mhm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it is. Yep. So,
So thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Denise. And Denise, thank you for handing out the Chip Plus flyers and,
yeah.
needless to say, you reminded me to go to the community.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw you. It's right. So we had a great resource fair just this past Saturday at Laguna Grande Park. We had, I think, but at least like 37 different organizations across the county, not just Seaside, participate.
This news article.
You weren't, yeah, which is fine.
So you have, right?
Yeah.
Some great performances happened from like the preschoolers and the older adults line dancing team. We had a gentleman from Guitar Not Guns perform. Yeah, we had the petting zoo there, free food. That was great. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's all I had to report on for today.
To get that process for the food, grant program on the budget for the next meeting.
We're gonna do an RFP again.
You mean like, so when we're ready, yes. So when the commission's ready to start discussing, allocation of those funds to support different organizations, if that is the will, I think it doesn't necessarily have to be an RFP process unless it's over a certain amount. And I still think $15,000 is still under it, but I'd have to find out for sure. Otherwise, what we could do, right, like we did, is we had identified partners with our little bit of money and we just gave it out, right? So we did. So I'm just discussing like we can choose to do that. The commission can choose to do that, but I'm saying you don't have to, right? I think the money amount is still low enough that the commission can just decide these are the 6 organizations we want to fund. As long as you vote on it, right? You can public comment, do all of that with the motions and say, we want to allocate this much towards it. You could do it that way too. So just giving you the option. Yeah, but I liked doing it the RFP way. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Mhm.
And we did that. So we must have done, there must be a number, or we just opted to do it that way.
We did. So, and it was us two being being new to the liaison position and wanting to make sure I did things right. I kind of just automatically volunteered, like, let's do it through an RFP process. And so, yeah. Mhm. Right. We don't have to.
How long was the eligibility period when we did the RFP? Was it 45 days or was it?
Right.
Yeah.
I think we extended it. Right. So we had a certain timeline and then we ended up extending it a little bit. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can discuss, like, I have all the old documentation. Right?
Okay.
So when we're ready to discuss in more detail, we can. Mhm. Exactly. So
Yep.
maybe the RP process is good anyways, because there's going to be new groups or different groups. And we should consider, equitably kind of doling out the funding and choosing, other groups as well. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. Right. Yeah. Think about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Folks are I don't know, I think we'll think about it.
Okay,
Yep. But we can walk away with our heads held high, a little bit of smile on our faces and our hearts of knowing we have some bit of funding to help, to
Yeah.
help, right?
That's awesome.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that they, $4,000 really reasonable ask.
Ask, right, so.
and, see what they're come out with, and again, we might fall out of the bounds of what that money is supposed to be used for, that was.
And I am so glad we're gonna keep much more public.
Yep, all right, it's up to you.
you have a
He's got a, right, we need the official adjournment process.
so do I have a motion to adjourn?
I second it.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, good night, folks.
Wow. Thank you so very much.